trap hustles everywhere. You can feel it in the air. They all despair. Hungry hands only take when they reaching out. Campaign smoking geek up, dog pound. Ugly politicians, new election year. Cry about they care. They're not sincere. It's the greedy and the rich want the make for. That the hungry young and poor wants pay for. The little homie stretched out in the coffin. They die younger and they die more often. The rent too high, the wage too low. The top 5 stupid songs upon your radio alert. I don't like. All this cackling and carrying on, I don't like. All this scared shit, I don't like. All these African Americans, that ain't right. And that goes to crazy ass crackers, small clean cold clowns, strip club rappers. Out in broad day with their nipples out, with their stretch small back heads and pimples out. Yuck, you suck. Go away. You're always talking and you never got much to say. Yuck, you suck. Go away. You always crying space. Fix it, thirsty face. Yuck. I don't like. The way these shoulders looking sound, I don't like. The way I see him getting down, I don't like. Make you wonder how they get around, that ain't right. In the land where crooks get to write the laws, but people hide their eyes, and sure they charge. Who the realest? Never mind. Who the winner for the best arranged line? What they wearing? Who was there? Ask yourself, why you care? Somebody going ham on a gossip site. Catch your feelings over rumors that are not your like. I don't like. Sometimes I even hate, but not the people. They actually I don't like. Sometimes I even hate. Lord forgive. Let us pray. Pussy poses. Dummy greed. Polluted seeds. The wacky weeds. Nazi pole nights. Wasted time. Zombie recruitment. Legal crime. You don't like it, then? You said. We built, forgive, and pray for these fake niggas. I'm experienced The black guard, got big lips and black bra in the projects. Rich is whipping that black hard. I'm just saying, my skills is whipping that crack hard. Look at LeBron James. The black guard, got big lips and black bra. As soon as I leave Earth, it's back to the stars. Right to job lives with jewelers and girls. It's X nods if I rule the world. Yo, my mental vision, setting up intuition, and you really don't have nothing if you intuition. I work with light. Just to give birth to life, I was born in all forms in the perfect night. The black god, got big lips and black broads. As soon as I leave Earth, it's back to the start. I am the ruler, just like the Lion of Judah. My third eye was built like an iron computer. That's dark matter and deep thought making your heart shatter. I sleepwalk, talking with smart chatter, so I don't need you to ride or die with me. I got ancestors that vibe from the other side with me, and they beam up life after death. We got noses on our eyes, cause the light suppress my priceless flesh. The final copy look like Anunnaki. Black guard, got big lips and black bra in the projects. Rich is whipping that black hard. I'm just saying, my skills is whipping that crack hard. Look at LeBron James. The black guard, got big lips and black bra. As soon as I leave Earth, it's back to the stars. Right to job lives with jewelers and girls. It's X nods if I rule the world. Yo, the black god got big lips and black rods in the projects. Rich is whipping that black hard. My rhymes the same. My skills is whipping that crack hard. Look at LeBron James, that nigga's a black heart. And you wonder why we spit lead. Just the old reps, niggas got big heads like old men. The way that I'm writing is more than vain. This is the age of enlightenment. Read the wars in Spain. Now that your honor, I pray to a black vagina. Even the Pope prayed to the black Madonna. In the sun, I shine as bright as I be. I'm the greatest of all time, like Muhammad Ali. And when I die, baptized in the fire. Only fly at night, black skies are higher. Prior to job, my lives with jewelers and girls. The sex nods, fire rule the world, rubies and pearls. The black card, got big lips and black bra. In the projects, Chris is whipping that black hard. Rhymes insane, my skills is whipping that crack hard. Look at LeBron James. The black card, got big lips and black bra. As soon as I leave Earth, it's back to the stars. Prior to job, my lives with jewelers and girls. The sex nods, fire rule the world. Yo, the black card, infinite to infinite stars. It's infinite light. My life's got an infinite charge. The instruments to implement to give strength to your heart. The temple within, the imprint mimic the art. Into the dark, the dragon spark the phantom from a higher consciousness. I talk with atoms. I live in the land, and I live in the stars. Original man, I am the image of God. Call me type, I'm Amen. I cut diamonds, so as long as I live, nothing can stop shining. You gon' need to be in the biz to drive me crazy. Live on CNN, hearing cries from Haiti. You know them people down there trying to hide them babies. The black guards, surrounded in light, attract stars. Black guards, surrounded in light, attract stars. The black guards, surrounded in light, attract stars. I told you, all of my critics, I told you all, that I was the biggest of all time.
Peace, 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 peace. You already know what it is. This A1 anthem right here. The black gods and goddesses. Peace to the Aborigines, North, South, Central, the conjoined islands. Peace to gods, peace to goddesses. This is once again another bill. And I actually said yesterday I wasn't going to do a bill for a minute, but got a call from my mechanic yesterday. He said my truck ain't gonna be ready probably until today. And if it's not ready today, it should be ready tomorrow. But however it go, I got opportunity to, like I said, put this information out. Over the last 2 years, I really didn't have the mental. I wasn't in a mental place to be doing bills. I mean, outside of the bills that I have done, most of the bills that I've done been more just dialoguing with other brothers and sisters, right? I haven't been able to really, you know, really present the information in the way I like to do it. I like to do a build where most of the time I'm showing something, unless we got a good topic that we talking about dealing with the Americas or dealing with the science or dealing with the history of the people, etc. Right? But understand this. Once again, please too share the video out, hit the like button, and if you like to donate, you already know where to go. But for the most part, right, let's sit here before I get into this build. Hopefully, this be a heavyweight jam. I think the one I did yesterday, the build I did yesterday, I got a lot of comments on it, and people was definitely pleased with the information and the research that was being put out there. I like to say this though, right? Hold on one second. You got a lot of people out here, right, that reference books, right? So in most cases, in most scenarios, right, what people do is, matter of fact, hold up real quick. Press one if I'm good, man. Let me know if we good or not. If we up in this motherfucker, if my voice is being heard in its entirety, or is it sounding robotic or sounding like Megatron? Um, Let me get a one if yay. Let me get a two if nay. All right, we good. All right, peace to the gods and the goddesses once again. So okay. Let me just tell you like this, right? I'm actually going to do a video on how to do research, on how to research. properly research or research, do investigative research. Shout out to my brother nonetheless. Matter of fact, let me shout the brothers out. There's only 23 of us in here. It's only a few people in the chat room. Been a minute. Shout out to B Amos, man. Um, I'm sorry, hold up. Yeah, shout out to the brother B Amos, man. He been supporting for a long time. Shout out to my brother Pokachu. Shout out to the Chief Serpentine, the Snake God. Peace to the Amaru. Peace to the American intellect. My peace to the God, nonetheless, man. What you doing up this morning? I mean, I know you probably be on the road, you probably doing your thing, but a peace to God, man. Equator 7, peace to God. Truth be told, peace to God. Master Musa Prince Justice L. Bay, peace to the God. Peace to KSR. PD, peace to God. So when it comes down to this research thing, right? You know, understand this, right? People read books and they trust and rely upon the authors and the people who publish the material, and you also rely upon some of the sources in which the author has been able to derive this material or this piece of literature material in which they are presenting or they're trying to put out there for the people to read. And most people read books, they read it from a truthful perspective, right? But see, the thing of it is if you're a researcher, at this point in time, you should be curious about everything you fucking read. You should be curious about everything, because all this history is all through the same fucking system, bro. All of it, the books that was written, and I'm gonna say this, right? I don't really think there's any old books out there like that, like how people be saying. I think we just got the timelines confused, or we got the timelines pretty much crossed up, right? I don't believe they put books out there from the 1500s, and if they do, it's a remix single that's pretty much is put out there to deceive you. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, the subconscious and the mental, the mind is a motherfucker, man. Cause it takes, like, once you get into a rhythm where you believe something for a period of time, it's hard. It's kind of hard. Like, even when you presented evidence, right? You'll start how you say, deflecting. You'll start not being able to accept the information that's being presented to you, even though subconsciously you know that the information that's being presented to you is it has some credence to it. It might not be, you might not know if it's true, you might not know if it's false until you check it out and see, is there other individuals who believe this same thing. You understand what I'm saying? So case in point, right? When with the pyramids, right? I had to find multiple individuals that was willing to say that the pyramids in America is older than the pyramids in Africa. I had to find multiple people. Wasn't just no one fucking source, nigga. I had to find multiple different sources of other archaeologists that saying the exact same thing for me to buy into it. You read a book, most of the time, you trust the author. You think the author then did his due diligence or her due diligence on the material that you're reading. So therefore, you never check it. You never fact check it. You sit here, you you comprehend, and you're able to memorize the literature material that you're reading, and then you take that shit in, and then just naturally you think you learned something, and you think you vibes with it. But you always have to be critical of everything that you hear. You understand what I'm saying? Always got to be critical. Peace, Sister Betty. Peace to Empress Awaken. Peace to the goddesses. Peace to Liso Innos. Peace to the goddesses. Peace. You always got to be critical of anything you're reading, and especially at this point in time, our intuition should be on 100. Our spidey senses should be on 100 when it comes to this. You know what I'm saying? So all our critical thinking should be on 100. You know what I'm saying? Our deciphering and decoding skills should be on 100. So when you understand why a lot of our people really, like, they're really their contention is due to their miseducation that they got. You know, like I said yesterday, you get two educations in this lifetime, right? You get the education that's dictated to you through you being not forced, but through you going through the K to 12 system, and then from the higher institution systems as well, because all of them is all set up the same way, the same textbooks and people who write these books and publish these books, they all got the same play. It's all the same fucking play. And you pay for school thinking you're gonna learn something that's gonna be exceptional to the information that's out there. But a lot of times, and I'm not saying, like, even like I said something yesterday about giving people just a understanding to my credentials, right? But you don't even need to go to school to be a researcher. You have to just find out, or you have to hear other stories. You can go out there and you can say, "Oh yeah, yeah, black people was born here on slave ships. Yeah, we were slaves from 1619 to 1865. Then Lincoln freed us. Then we went on to own our own lands, and then we went on to own our own properties, farms, etc. Right? And we started to learn after 1865, right? And then the Europeans didn't want us to be free because we were slaves, and that was the reason why they was burning a lot of these towns down. That was the reason why they was doing a lot of stuff that they was doing to us. No, that's not the reason they was doing. They was doing that stuff to you because you did it to them. That's the reason. That's the real reason, right? So, once you find out, like, even through this history, you find out, all right, like I said, the 1619 to 1865, right? Now, every now and then you'll see an exception to the rule, right? According to some of these Negroes, right? Oh yeah, yeah, some of the slaves is able to buy their freedom, right? They was able to work on the side when they wasn't being a slave, right? Think about this. Think about how asinine that this so-called statement is, right? When they wasn't a slave, they was able to work part-time, save up enough money, and pay a slave master who's supposed to be this white supremacist, according to how history teaches us, right? We seen Roots. White, that's a depiction, and also the stories that go with it, right? That's a depiction of what the temperature was, or what the tension was at that point in time for our people, right? So, all right, you go to the motherfucker with your head down, master, I won't buy myself my freedom. My mammy, and the rest of them, right? What was to stop this demon from saying, "Oh yeah, all right, well, okay, give it here, yeah, 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 y'all good, give me the money," and take the money and tell his ass to get back out there on the plantation? What was he going to do? Get lynched in front of his family? Get whipped in front of his family? Come on, man. You know what I'm saying? A lot of shit is mental programming. It's mental programming. It's put out there so you will feel inferior. It's supposed to be fear tactics. That's how they fear you. They fear you by selling wolf tickets. I'm not saying that some of this shit couldn't happen, like the shit we seen in the 1900s or whatever wasn't happening. But the shit that they show you prior to that has just really started to happen after 1865, bro. After 1865. And in some cases, some of the rebellion here are dealing with Europeans. So now you hear that. You no longer think you no longer think of slavery as the same. When anybody, you can be talking to somebody who done read 50 fucking books about slavery, and you having a conversation with them and they talking to you. Oh yeah, we were slaves. Yeah, we had to do this and we had to do that and we had a abolitionist and you be like, wait a minute. Are you aware of the white slaves? Oh no, they was indentured servants. You do know where the word slave come from? Yeah, yeah. The word slave come from Negroes being brought over here through the transatlantic. Now that's not what the word slave means. The people who actually you call indentured servant indentured servants are actually the people who called the Sloughs. How ironic is that? But then even when you want to place that on them, you take on the ethnicity of being a Slavic, and then you give them the beneficent of being a white servant. You understand what I'm saying? Being a white servant. So once you hear about that, history is not the same. You cannot go with it. Once you find out about the sciences of the Americas, I don't want to hear none of that shit. I don't want to hear nothing. Oh yeah, we thought the Sumerians and all these people was in Mesopotamia or whatever. And like the video I showed yesterday, right? It showed the stuff that they found in Ecuador that was underground, the pyramid, right? They showed the stuff. They said this shit is 10,000 years old, over 10,000 years old. And he's saying that this is Sumerian origins, right? So Mesopotamia only go back to maybe what 5,500 years, 6,000 years, if you will. So so you go figure that. So they find stuff in America that's older than even these ancient civilizations that they're claiming. So we're gonna get into a little bit of that. We're gonna be dealing with some more architecture, some literature, a couple videos. So definitely, man, if you tapped in, share the video out, like the video. If you like to donate to the channel, the Cash App is up on deck. And also, I just want to make an announcement as far as Culture Freedom, right? Honestly, my plan was to come into the new year. I had my interview set up with the individuals that I need to get some footage of some content that they're going to be adding to Culture Freedom. But I had issues with my truck. A day before my birthday. My birthday is December 21st. The 20th, I blew my trans in my truck. Right. Then found out some shit with AAA. It's a long story. But it took me between getting the trans, getting it put in, it took me like a month and a half, and everything was paid for. It just was the availability and the efficiency of the process, right? Then I had put the trans in, boom, got back rolling. I was already planning. I was planning on going out because I have to go to Pennsylvania and I gotta go to 3 places in North Carolina. And I was gonna do that shit the same time. You know what I'm saying? And what I do is I haul cars. And while I was going down in North Carolina, I was gonna take my truck and my trailer with me, and I was gonna bring back some cars to Jersey or whatever. In the whole process, kill 5 birds with one stone, right? Um, but unfortunately, like I had burnt the new trans that I got out 3 weeks since I mean from the time that it was put in, and then I had a warranty on it, so I had to go back, get the warranty, and then he had to find another the same type of engine. I mean the same type of transmission. So it's just been a real tedious and a real fucking headache, man. You know what I'm saying? But you know what it is, man. We guys, and sometimes you get a tower moment and you just gotta be able to regroup from it. But you know what the good thing about it is? That in this time, you know what I'm saying, between me going to the gym, food shopping, cleaning the house, going out there, cleaning stuff out my other car, and doing a little other shit, I got back into wanting to do builds, man. And like I said, I think the Aboriginal community, I've been on numerous platforms within the last couple months. And I definitely thank y'all because it was something that, like, at a time when I, felt like, what I'm saying, with this information, you can't talk to everybody about this information. That's why I'm thankful that I got my Aboriginal community, what I'm saying, whether you refer to yourself as an Indian, Aborigine, a Tanshan, or more. I definitely thank my Aboriginal community, man. Thank y'all very much, man, for being here and, for being in attendance. Or even, like I said, on some of the panels, man, we got to definitely be thankful for the brothers and sisters or whatever that who be present information and who do open up the platforms so that people can come through and give a different perspective or get their testimony with what their situation was, right? So definitely like to thank y'all. But I have to get settled, so I'm telling you, I promise. Well, I don't make a promise because shit is, you know, things are scheduled to change, right? But my goal is to get Culture Freedom done by September. So I just need to go do my interviews, but I gotta kind of catch up with some things but through this whole tedious process, um, one of my main businesses has been down, so it's just been a lot. I got to catch up on a lot of stuff, man. But I will I will put this out in the universe that I want to get it done by September. So hopefully this time the universe will cooperate with me and open as many doors as I can go through to get this process done with. All right. So with that being said, peace to the gods, peace to the goddesses. Um, you said on 9/19. I'm gonna hold you to that, Sister Betty. I'm gonna definitely hold you to that. Word up. I'm gonna definitely hold you to that. That's my sister. Even though we go back and forth, that's my big sister though. No doubt, man. Shout out Sister Betty. So with that being said, man, let's get into this, man. We just gonna be and like I said, understand this, right? When we go into the science of America's, the American Indian Encyclopedia is long as well as my personal research on archaeology and anthropology, you know what I'm saying? My personal research on that and seeing all of this stuff that they have found in America while people tell us about Egypt and people tell us about everywhere else around the world, they don't give us nothing to be proud of until you start looking right here under your fucking feet. So with that being said, peace to the gods. Let's get into the bill.
I was always interested and loved to travel around the world. My parents like to travel. And I was just 18, 19. I was studying Chinese at the University of Montana. And I was able to go to Taiwan as an English teacher. That got me to Asia. I'd always wanted to go to Nepal and Tibet. Technical climbing interested me as well as stuff in Tibet, Tibetan Buddhism. And like you guys, I've always been interested in unusual things, ancient history, and Atlantis, megaliths, and some of the mysteries of the past. So with that said, fasten your seatbelts and let's go to the lost cities of South America. I always like to briefly introduce the whole concept of Atlantis. Atlantis comes from the Greek historian Plato. Plato talks about it being an Egyptian story. The Egyptians themselves tell Plato, they say, you Greeks don't even know your own history. Your country's a lot older than you even know. And then he tells them the story of Atlantis. The idea that Atlantis was somehow in the Atlantic, this is a sonar photograph that was taken by a robotic sub off of Cuba, 1998, supposedly of city streets, of pyramids, 2,000 feet below the Caribbean Ocean off the west part of Cuba. Also right around that area in the Bahamas is the famous Bimini Wall.
So all right, so before we get in, let me make sure y'all can hear me. Mic check, mic check, mic check, mic check. Press one if we good. No, I know I done stopped it, Mike. Press one if you guys can hear me. because I just want to touch on what David was talking about. Mic check, mic check, mic check. All right, we good. All right, no doubt. All right, so look, what David was talking about, he talking about the pyramid that they found. Now look, say pyramid discovered underwater off the coast of Cuba might be Atlantis, right? According to them, but we know we on Atlantis, right? So let me blow this up a little bit before I get into it. I'm gonna be showing you guys some additional things as he is actually elaborating on it, and I'm gonna be adding content in along. Along with his so-called you know what I'm saying, what he's saying or what he mentioning, right? So pyramids discovered underwater off coast of Cuba might be Atlantis, right? Now it says the remains of what may be a 6,000 year old emerged in a deep water off the west coast of Cuba was discovered by a team of Canadian and Cuban researchers, right? So this is an image of what it looks like. It's an image what it looks like. I got some additional images right here. Let's take a look at what they got for us. So these some additional images. Let me see this one right here. This look. And this is what he was showing. He was showing this shit right here. So they was using like a form of LiDAR, like we mentioned with the 60,000 structures that they so-called found in Guatemala by using this like X-ray type of technology or like radar type of technology. And these are some of the images right here. Boom, boom, boom. All right. Let me see. Some more of the images. This is it right here, right? All right, so I'm gonna show you a few more, and then I'm gonna go back into the literature. Damn, they got a lot of pictures. Shit. No, he's saying it's the Bermuda Triangle. This is it right here. Boom. Another different aerial view of it, right? All right, so these some images of it, and then it get going to Egypt and all that other shit, right? So let's go back into the article. All right, so all right, saying offshore engineer Paulina and her husband Paul and her son Ernesto use sophisticated sonar and videotape devices to find some kind of megalith you'd find on Stonehenge or Easter Island, right? So it says some of the structures within a complex may be as long as 400 meters. I don't know how long 400 meters is, but you do the science, you do the math to that, right? Wide and as high as 40 meters tall. He said some are sitting on top of each other, saying they show very distinct shapes and symmetrical designs of non-natural kind. Saying we've shown them to scientists in Cuba, the US, and elsewhere, and nobody has suggested they are natural. Of course, right? Nobody said. And see, you know what? When you bring up this type of information, people who talking about they using scholarly information will use that part of the article right there, right? And they will go search out for these individuals who suggesting that they not natural instead of being curious and being using their investigative criticism, right? To understand that this shit may be real, and the reason they saying suggest it's not natural because now they have to make an explanation for the dating and the age of these so-called structures underwater, and then they have to come up with a whole different play on it or a whole different narrative to, oh, these people was aliens and they came and flew in the water and built the pyramids and etc., all of that type of shit. They come up with these explanations that well, then again, the Pan Africans come up with explanations that's even worse than anything I've ever heard any European say. because Europeans will still give you the reason of doubt. They still have some reason and logic with what they saying. They're trying to process it first before they be on the defense. A lot of these people don't even process. They don't even process the information, right? They just go right on defense. Oh, this is older than Kemet, so I gotta defend it. Oh, this science and technology is older than the shit we see in Kemet, so I gotta defend it. Oh, these niggas over here eating motherfucking oranges and making lemon meringue pie while people in other places don't have that. They don't have that luxury because their land doesn't provide the nutrients for them to be sustainable. That's why a lot of people leave and come over here because America feeds the world. America feeds all of the Americas. Everything that they find, everything that comes from the fucking farm bill. And I actually learned that shit when I was in school to be a dietitian because we had to do a project on the USDA or the USDA or the what's the other one? The USDA and it's two of them, right? And then we had to go and dealing with the farm bill, and then we had to do actual a project or research on like the different programs that they got through the farm bill, like WIC, SNAP, etc. Right? But that's just some of the excuses and some of the logic that people come up with. So here is just the map right here, and this is the location right here. So this is in between. You see Florida right here, the tip of Florida, right? And then we see South America right here. Right, this is South America or Central. I see Belize over here. I thought Belize was in Central America, but maybe I'm looking at the map wrong. But however it go, this is where it's located right here. Okay, and under my assumption, at one point in time, all this land right here was connected. All this land. When they tell you Pangea wasn't, the fucking continents didn't move. The water covered over the land to where, what I'm saying, the land is still present, but they wanted you to think that all of the continents was connected. Oh, South America and Africa was connected and all this other shit. They give you a round image of what Pangea. That's all pseudo shit. The water covered the land. The land did not move. The water covered the land. That's pseudoscience to even think of that. The land is all one infinite plane, bro. You don't see mountains and shit like that moving or it's spreading over nowadays. Why ain't nothing no spreading away? You know what I'm saying? As the water covers the land, then the land disappears. But that's a whole nother story, though, right? So let's get into it, man. All right, so um. let me see. Moreover, an anthropology affiliated with the Cuban Academy of Science have said that still photos were taken from a videotape clearly show symbols and inscriptions. All right. Mr. Wines Zig, I can't pronounce that shit. Y'all know how my pronunciation is with some of these fucking names, or whatever the fuck his name is, said it is not yet known in what language the inscriptions are written. Okay? It say that the sonar images he added bear a remarkable resemblance to pyramidal designs of Maya and Aztec temples in Mexico. Okay? So that's just a little insight on that. Let me see something. I'm gonna see if they're gonna give us another. All right, so look, let me see something. I'm gonna go right here. The precise age of the underwater site is also unknown, although Cuban archaeologists in 1966 excavated a land-based megalithic structure on the western coast, close to the new underwater discovery said to date from 4000 BC. Okay, based on that and other geological information, we're speculating that these are 6,000 years old, he explained, right? It's saying not exact, but they are very ancient. And the dating estimate proves accurate. It would mean that an ancient civilization has designed and erected those vast stone structures in America only 500 years ago, after human settlements first became organized in cities and states, right? So there it is right there. They always trying to add, they always trying to come in with their time. That's why you can't trust nothing that they saying, because these people ain't even got the frequency to get the downloads to even come up with the actual time. They sitting up there guesstimating and coming up with these estimations and all this shit. They don't know. Them shits could be 20,000 years old. You know what I'm saying? They could be 100,000 years old. The pyramid science is ancient. It's not something that people was just doing. Like, you know, some of these places was still in effect and still being used, but then we started to make like smaller temples, what you call mosques and churches. You know what I'm saying? So we didn't have, and we had them closer to the towns that we resided in or whatever, because a lot of and then we started to use graveyards, right? Hold up. Then we started to use graveyards to bury the dead in, right? And mausoleums, right? Mausoleums, right? So boom. So check this out. They would also have been built long before the wheel was invented in Samaria. Now they saying the wheel was invented in Samaria, but we find a wheel in America. Man, they got another connections to the Sumerians in Central America, right? It's saying, or in Egypt, 3000 BC. It's saying that three pyramids on Egypt Giza Plateau are thought to have been constructed between 2900 and 2200 BC. Okay. It's saying a couple Havana-based company, Advanced Digital Communication, discovered the site using a side scan sonar equipment to view what resembled an underwater city complete with roads, buildings, and pyramids. Once again, we see the same thing going on. Ain't nothing new up under the motherfucking sun. We see the same shit going on, right? Underwater city with roads, which he was just talking about, Bemi Road, right? Talking about roads and buildings and pyramids, okay? What they was using, what you think they was doing in the buildings? You think in the buildings people was living? But I'm gonna show you some other shit. Matter of fact, you know what? I'm gonna show it to you now. Let me hold up. No, it's right here. What was all right, right here. This right here. Shout out to my brother Jaguar for giving me the book, for giving me this material right here. So let me see. Give me a second. Let me find what I'm looking for. Just give me 1 second. All right, so let me see if I got it better here. Nah, I got it right here. Hold up. All right, here, and this is a book called called Atlantis in America. And if you want to check the bills, I'll go to my brother Jaguar Olmec page. He actually is doing intense information dealing with the book and dealing with Atlantis in America, if you will, if you believe in the terminology, definitely go check the brother channel out. So all right, we talking about Cuzo, right? It's saying the capital of the Inca Empire contained right here, right? Say contained 100,000 houses, perhaps a 500,000 people at the time when they claim the Spanish came there. I don't believe that, right? In 1533. So in 1533, they had 100,000 houses. Okay. 100,000 houses. Go figure that shit, right? And then you go down to the bottom right here. Look, it's saying, but the splendor of what has been called both a celestial city and a navel of the earth would have been more dazzling to the Spanish conquistadors. Most of the cities, particularly the inner area of, let me give me a second to pronounce this shit, Caracancha, was covered in gold, nigga. Was covered in gold, nigga. 100,000 houses. They saying 500,000 people dealing with the Inca Empire once again. Okay, so this is the area right here of what it looked like. Boom, you see blocks. This shit look like a city block today. If you look at the maps of a city today and see how the maps is laid out. Go to your Hall of Records and go look at some of them old maps and look at the blueprints to how the city's laid out. Look at the blueprint of this right here. And this is in Cuzo, and this is Celestial City, right? And this book is actually amazing, man. Definitely shout out to my brother, man, because like I said, man, I do research, but I also listen and I also get information from other brothers that do pull my chain and shit. And that's why I always like to reference them. You know what I'm saying? So all right, let's go back to boom. So we clear on the buildings, we clear on all that. So let's go back here. Let's go back to, let me go out of here. I'm gonna play some more of the video, right? So we got to kind of show and prove when we dealing with here, man, because this is the information you have to be equipped with in order to, like, state your case of America being the old world. Regardless of, like I said, the people they're going to use the people who deceive us in order to prove their case, and that's what these niggas do. They don't look at the facts that's being presented and try to process the information before they defend it. The first thing they do is defend it and then go look for the individuals who don't agree with this shit. Why would you disagree with this shit? Oh, this is scholar. This is really not a game. This is not a game of because I'm a scholar because I can come with information that other people don't agree with it. But guess what? They not telling nobody about none of this shit in college and in mainstream. You gotta look through these conspiratorial sites and people who are called conspiracy theories to even find this type of shit for you with oh Cuba. But they have nothing like that in Africa. And I'm not trying to not have no appreciation for Africa. But at the end of the day, when we have people constantly coming here, telling us Egypt, pyramids, pyramids. And outside of the pyramids, they don't really talk about North Africa like that. They don't even talk because they think North Africans are Arabs. The people who got the real science that came from the Americas, they think they're Arabs. So they don't even claim that. And they think that the Egyptians are Arabs too. But then they come up with we don't know Kemet Negroes or Nubians, right? So that's look to what they say we present. So peace of the gods, man. Let's get back into this shit. Hold up. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna go back out. Come back in. We're gonna get into some more shit.
giant megaliths underwater, possibly man-made or maybe natural. There's over 200 known sunken cities in the Mediterranean, including 2 cities that have been found off of Alexandria, 35 kilometers out into the Mediterranean. Mainstream archaeologists are telling us now that the oldest ruins in the world are on Malta and Gozo. And these ruins here are supposedly the oldest known ruins. They're said to be at least 9,000 years old. We're talking 7,000 BC here, that we're getting towards the time of Atlantis. Atlantis being 10,000 BC or so, according to Plato and the Egyptians. In Malta, you also have these cart tracks cut into stone. They're the same gauge as Roman cart tracks were, and also British railways. They must be 5, 6, 7, 9,000 years old. Yeah, they go off cliffs. In Malta, they say that a giant wave hit Malta and wiped it out. There were pygmy elephants, pygmy hippopotami, and other weird animals in Malta. Many of them were washed into this cave. Something hit Malta and it was wiped out, and the Mediterranean was filled in at that time. In the Eastern Mediterranean, in Lebanon, is the Baalbeka Valley, and there the largest known megaliths in the world are found. These are the giant ashlars at Baalbek. Some of these weigh 1,000 tons, or 100,000 tons, I should say. There's the largest known blocks and they're still in the quarry. They really are huge, larger than a railway car, say. We'll see some of this also in South America just in a minute. Mainstream archaeologists have to explain how you're going to move a 1,000-ton block around. Their explanation right now is that by using small hourglass type stones that are cut into small cuttings in the blocks, and you build a giant cage around these huge blocks, and you have to have lots of pulleys and things like that. And then you can move this block a few inches. This is allegedly how they were moving megaliths, but you have to ask why. Why would they do something like this? Why are they trying to build in what would seem to be an extremely difficult way? This is an old National Geographic painting of the building of the Parthenon in Athens. And what you see here, what's interesting, these are what are called keystone cuts and clamps. And in this case, they're T-shaped. You have different blocks of stone, and then you pour molten metals in here. We're going to be seeing more.
All right, bet. So you just heard what he said, right? Saying that the pulley device that they was using could only move some of these devices or some of these structures a couple of fucking inches, and then they had to restart and do the same thing, right? So this is what leads up to this right here, right? So boom, right? Still with this shit real quick. So you got the obelisk, Cleopatra once again, right? Cleopatra Needle, right? And this is in Central Park. Okay, this is in Central Park, right? So this is the obelisk, Cleopatra Needle, that's sitting in the middle of fucking Central Park. Okay, and this is what it looked like, right? So let's hit a ridiculous story around this, okay? All right, listen to this. You're gonna laugh. Look, the obelisk was created around 1425 BCE, right? The Heliopolis, Egypt, in Heliopolis, Egypt, an area north of modern day Cairo. It sits on a rocky hill known as the Great Wack knoll across from the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the MoMA, right? So, boom. let's find some dates to when this shit got there or when they think it got there, right? Let me see something. Oh, all right. So it's saying then and now. It's saying, all right, then and now, the obelisk, created roughly 3,500 years ago in Egypt. The obelisk, also known as Cleopatra Needle, was dedicated in Central Park in 1881. So look, in 1881, y'all, right? 1881. So in 1881, what kind of material, what kind of vehicles do we know that would have been able to pull this so-called obelisk, right? And how much does it weigh again? Let's see how much it weighs. So it says Central Park is the third location for this 220-ton mega monolith, right? 220 tons, nigga. You know how much that weigh? A truck, I mean, a fucking pickup truck weighs 3 tons, nigga. And you go out there and try lifting that shit. You might can pull it, but you try lifting that shit, right? So for them to pull this into Central Park, let's just sit here and ponder on this, right? Okay, there's a river close to Central Park where the 59th Street Bridge go over, right? But so you saying that they came, they put this thing on a boat, right? They put it on a boat, brought it all the way to New York, right? And then somehow found some way to take it from wherever the docks at where they would have been able to pull it and pull it all the way to Central Park. You really believe that? I mean, let me see what you guys are saying. Like, let's make some sense of any of this shit. Yeah, it's in Central Park, right? And look, I'll show you something else, right? This is Prospect Park. This is in Brooklyn, right? This is in Brooklyn, and they got some ancient structures in there, such as this bridge right here, right? With them arches on it, right? They claiming that they built this. This shit is ancient. This shit is not nothing new, right? When you see these things right here, I don't know what the hell they call, but you see these shits everywhere. And these are also ancient, right? Along with this, let me click on this. They saying that this shit is ancient right here, right? And this is in Prospect. I'm gonna go back to Central Park in a minute. And this right here, they saying that this is ancient because it got the Corbel arches to it, right? So let me see something real quick. All right, let's go here. Boom. So look, check this shit out. Oh, matter of fact, you know what? Let me see something real quick before I go into that. All right, so look. This is what the Washington Monument looked it like. And they saying that they actually the obelisk was part of a fucking pyramid. This is what some people saying. I can't verify it unless we go and get some hard and get some fucking picks and start digging the ground and see whether or not this is true or not and do our research, right? But other than other people research that actually have some insight to that, I have to kind of source them. But with that being said, this is something still that we don't never hear about. We don't hear about. They're not willing. They're not being generous with this type of information out there, right? So there's another obelisk, right? Hold up. All right, boom. Check this one out. You going? Oh, this is the same joint right here. Look, same shit. There you go again. Look, and they got the capstone at the top on this one right here, right? But this is a more ancient or older picture of it. And they saying this is in Germany, right? Something similar, right? To show you that the science was not just it was coming from America, but it was going to other places. But I just showed you that in the case that we talking about an obelisk. We talking about how they was moving shit with pulleys and all this other ridiculous shit that they say, right? We don't know exactly how they was. They could have been using. We could have been real life superheroes. Niggas could have been flying and picking tons up. Like I don't know at this point in time, bro. They hiding something. We just don't know exactly what it is. But once again, according to the article, a 200-ton monolith, right? Obelisk that they said that was 3,500 years old, right? Oh, matter of fact, you know what? Let's read the story with it, right? When the Romans discovered the two obelisks in 12 BCE, both had toppled and were lying partially buried in the sand. The Romans transported the obelisk to Alexandria and installed them at an entrance to a temple dedicated to Julius Caesar. The temple have been built by Cleopatra, which is one theory of how it came to be called Cleopatra's Needle, a name that still endures. The Romans created the bronze crabs as support for the damaged obelisk. In Rome mythology, crabs are associated with Apollo, the sun god, thus continuing the solar connection, right? You believe that? Bullshit. That fucking obelisk been in Central Park, right? But once again, they saying that they bought it there in 1881, right? They bought it there in 1881. I think in 1881, Seneca Village still was there. I don't think Seneca Village happened until like maybe a little later than that, or early 1900s, right? Because they wasn't even calling. I don't even think it was called Central Park. So why would they move something and bring it there? That's all bullshit. That this shit been there. You understand? But just to the point of what David Hatcher Children is saying about them trying to move stuff with a pulley, and just figure out what type of technology it would have took for them to get that shit all the way in Central Park. Central Park got hills, bro. It ain't like, you know what I'm saying? It got hills. And at some point in time, unless you got a fucking giant truck that you can pull actually in there, how the fuck is you going to transport this big ass obelisk into a fucking park with hills where all of the ground is not level? Okay? In fact, you know what? I'm gonna play a little bit of the video. I want to see the video real quick. Let's check this out. Let's listen to this ridiculous shit.
Central Park's obelisk was constructed around 1450 BC. It was in 1881. By 2011, the obelisk was covered with grime. In 2014, the Central Park Conservancy, in partnership with the Metropolitan Museum of Art and New York City Parks, completed a restoration of the obelisk. Lasers were used to remove the soot, and the surface was stabilized with adhesives. Today, visitors can again appreciate the obelisk's hieroglyphics.
Let me see something real quick. Central Park. They got Seneca Village right there, but I ain't gonna go into that though. We're gonna go back into what we was at. All right, so I'm gonna go back into the vid build. Let me see what y'all saying. Oh, they listen. When you go into the St. Louis World Fairs, there's two obelisks at the beginning of the fucking World Fair too. Let me see something. I think I got that picture. Let me see if I can find that real quick. Hold up one second. Let me see if I can find that shit. And also, there was an obelisk in what town is that? Hold up. What town is that in North Carolina? Asheville. in Asheville, North Carolina. There's an obelisk in the middle of the goddamn city. Let me see if I can find that. I think I got some images of that. Oh, matter of fact, hold up real quick. Let me open it back up. I forgot I took this screen off. Yeah, this whole history is contaminated, man. So you can't run around here referencing people. And like I said, the only reason why I use these Europeans, because a lot of them be telling the truth, but you have to cross-reference that with other material. You just can't take what they say in face value. You have to cross-reference that with other research that you hear. Okay, ain't too many niggas going out here doing no archaeology work or out there in a lot digging up shit and shifting it through filters to see whether or not they find. Niggas ain't doing that type of shit. So you have to rely on the people who were at least genuine to go out there and do the research, and you cross reference that with the other material and the other information you got. It's not just like reading from a script and shit like how people think it is, right? So hold up, let's go. I'm gonna show you the other obelisk. Just since he brought it up, right? Let me see something. Look. Look, this is in Central Park where they found it at. It ain't that clear, but that's where it was at originally. That's where it was original at in Central Park. This is Central Park. This is where it was originally at, right? So hold up. Let me show you something else. Let me find that one in the middle of Asheville. Oh, here you go, right here. Look. City Hall legal buildings and a Pack Memorial Library on Pack Square in Asheville, New Jersey. I mean, North Carolina. Sorry about that. But look at the buildings around this shit. This shit look like a goddamn castle right here. Right? Look in the background. These are all ancient buildings, bro. And that's the reason why you see this shit sitting in the middle of the goddamn square, right? Let me see if I can find a one in St. Louis. Shit, since he mentioned obelisk, mentioned how heavy the motherfuckers is, like you could just move them around. Like that's gonna be a fucking feat. I think this is another image of it, the one at Asheville. Oh, that's another one, I think. Look. A matter of fact, I think that's the same one. That's what it originally looked like. Sit right here. And this is what the town surrounding looked like. And like I said, I see them arches, them Corbel arches. That's how I know that we built this shit, because you find this all through the Americas. The Corbel arches, you also find these spikes to where it has something to do with the lightning. You see a lot of this stuff, man. You see a lot of stuff in um ancient architecture technology. This is ancient architecture technology. But that's in, like I said, this is in North Carolina, right? I'm gonna show the one in St. Louis, and I'm gonna get back to the bill. If I can find that motherfucker. Matter of fact, you know what? Look. This is Chicago's World Fair, and this is the obelisk right here. Bam. You think these motherfuckers built this shit, nigga? This is our shit right here, bro. The guards. You see this? But they gonna. This is another obelisk right here. Just since we talk about obelisk, right? So let me see. Let me find the one for St. Louis. And hold up, let me show y'all this too. This is a picture of the original White House. Look. You can't see it that good, but I got another picture, I think, down at the bottom. But this is what the original White House looked like. Hold up. Where you at, St. Louis? Hold up. This is another image of that so-called obelisk or so-called town. Nah, this is the World Fair joint. These people dressing up, playing like they the ones that did all this shit, right? So hold on, let me go back. You know what? I don't think I got that one in here in this collection right here. I have to look for it. Let me look one more time to see if maybe if I overlooked it. And this is the layout of what they said Tenochtitlan looked like. Right? This is just a layout of what they said it looked like. Right? Look at this shit. And you see houses, buildings surrounding it right here. Right? And this is the layout. And you see other structures out there on islands. I don't know if you guys can see that in the background, but you see that? You see other structures that got like bridges that's connecting other on little islands and shit. And you see a whole fucking road right here, right? A road that's built on water. Okay. And I'm thinking that this island was built is man-made, like how they made Dubai, right? But look it down at the bottom right here. Let me hide this. Look, this is what Teotihuacan or Tenochtitlan looked it like at that point in time, right? So let's get back into the build. Hit the like button, share the video out. If you'd like to donate, my Cash App is on deck. It's saying the Washington Monument is an extremely wide and tall obelisk. Yeah. Bro, it's a lot of, like I said, man, they're gonna be he gonna be touching on it. So let me get back. Let me stop it. Because it seems like it played better when I just highlight that one particular page or web page. All right, so let's go back into it.
More of that. If you go to Egypt, there are supposedly pre-Egyptian ruins in Egypt. Possibly from Atlantis, over 10,000 years old. This is the Osirion near Abydos. Giant blocks of granite. It's actually underwater for a while. The Egyptian government spent years pumping this out. They're still pumping it out, trying to get the water out of it. Notice here, the side of the Osirion, there's no hieroglyphs or anything like that there. Notice here, curious notching of stones. Also, these little knobs and pillows type things that are on these stones. It's megalithic. All right, now we're in Cuzco. We're the capital, the ancient Inca capital of Peru. The Incas are well known for building with this jigsaw type perfect construction. This is the famous stone of 12 angles, which is also in Cuzco. Notice the knob here. This is on the label of the local beer, this stone right here. You can see in streets in Cuzco, different levels of building. Much of it, particularly the bottom part, is megalithic. then other fine building stones on top. This is actually the Emperor's Palace in Tokyo. It too is a megalithic building that's built out of these jigsaw type stones. This is part of the Emperor's Palace in Tokyo too. It's perfectly fitted jigsaw stones fitted together in a way like in Peru, where you can't even get a knife blade or razor blade between the stones. This is a similar structure. This is in northwest Greece. It's near Albania. It's called the Necromanticon. It was only discovered in the 1960s, and it's underground. Greek archaeologists discovered this building, uncovered it, and it too has, like in Peru or at the Emperor's Palace in Tokyo, has these unusual jigstone type like construction patterns. When you go up above Cuzco, there is the giant megalithic fort of Sacsayhuaman. It too has huge stones of limestone that have been quarried. They're fitted together also in this jigsaw pattern. There's rows of walls that go up above. The Spanish and the Incas fought a big battle here. There was supposedly a tower similar to round towers in Ireland that were on top of this building. They don't know what it was really for. That was actually some kind of fort built by the Incas. Is thought, but we'll see in a minute that probably the Incas didn't build this stuff. This is the fantastic megalithic city of Machu Picchu. It's a secret city on top of a mountain. Machu Picchu is right now it's the #1 tourist destination in South America, and for good reason. It's a fantastic place. It's beautiful views, and it itself is this amazing megalithic city. Notice here again, cut blocks, they're notched. See also these curious knobs that we saw as well at the Osirion in Egypt. This too is a wall at Machu Picchu, perfectly fitted together, and megalithic, notched, huge blocks, perfectly fitted, huge patches of limestone here too. Near to Machu Picchu, along the Urubamba River, is this site. It's called Ollantaytambo. And at Ollantaytambo, up on top of the mountain, is what they call the Sun Temple. As you go up these terraces, and then you go up these
If you're at all concerned about the direction our country is headed, then I need to reveal 4 words to you that could change everything. These 4 words
called the Sun Temple. As you go up these terraces, and then you go up these stairs, you start entering passages with these walls. Once again, you have these curious knobs. They don't know what these are for. They think it somehow has something to do with the actual building. Huge lichen patches here too, showing that it's very old. Once again, you see these knobs. Perfect fitting of, in this case, they have, even though that it's quite the unusual jigsaw pattern, all the stones fit perfectly. But as you come around the corner at Ollantaytambo, you start seeing some really unusual things. You start seeing giant blocks of granite like this. These blocks are just standing around like some kids' building blocks that have been blown aside. This is the one wall that you see up there, and it is still intact. It has these unusual narrow strips here. Also, you see the curious knobs. And as you go around the corner to the right, you see this wall. And this wall here is what, look at this wall. Notice here again how it's notched right here. It's coming down on the right. Clearly, some other giant megalithic block is to be fitted right here with this. But instead, you have this crummy rubble filling it in on either side. Now, mainstream archaeologists, this is so important in Peru, because what the mainstream archaeologists are saying is that just like 200 years before the Spanish got to Peru, conquered South America, they're saying the Incas built all this stuff. And they're saying that the Incas dragged this giant block up here, notched it like this, and then just filled it in with this crummy rubble. It really doesn't make sense. I mean, here is what we're talking about. Here's that block right here. Here's these other blocks. This is exactly how it is today. It's how it was at the time of the Spanish conquest, and that's how it was also at the time of the Incas. The Incas are very recent. The Incas existed only a few hundred years prior to the Spanish getting there. So the mainstream archaeologists are saying, yeah, the Incas built all this stuff. They just dragged these giant blocks up here, left this one here, put some more rubble there, left those there, put this one here, notched it, and then they put that here. I mean, what's clear to me, and I constantly maintain in all my books, is that, yeah, this is some kind of pre-Inca megalithic building from Atlantis or something like that. And this is Inca construction. So as you go and you look around at these blocks, I mean, they're articulated. I mean, they squared them. They're going to do something really amazing with these blocks, but they did it. The reason they just completely stopped all of their building. Now we're looking at something too. Look at this. These are keystone cuts on these blocks. Here's one right here. Do you have it cut? This is a T-shaped keystone cut. You have to have another megalithic block right here. It's going to have a keystone cut too on it. And these blocks are huge. And they're weighing 100 tons. You wouldn't think they would be going anywhere, but they want to connect them with these metal clamps that they pour in place. Here's what it looks like. This is what these blocks, I mean, here's a keystone cut ready to go. Just needs another giant block to be fitted against it. And they're saying that the Incas did all this. As you leave Cusco and you go up higher into the Andes, you will come to Lake Titicaca, highest navigable lake in the world. It's about 13,000 feet in the Andes. And along the west side is this curious structure here. It's what they call the Devil's Door, the Door of Amarururu. Some people call it a Stargate. So it's built into this solid rock, granite. The thing is about 40 feet high right here. It's about 6 feet high. People claim that they have interdimensional experiences here. You would think that other giant blocks were somehow one time either fitted up against this and are now gone, or that they were meant to. And this is what it's like. This is actually bird guano. There's grooves. It's been cut. It's like something else, some other structure is meant to go into this wall, and it's not there. You have also false doorways in Egypt. This is one near the pyramids in Giza. It's a false doorway, smaller. The Egyptians would do that. Also in Bolivia, that's where Tiwanaku is, we're going to see that in a minute, is this curious site of Samaipata. This is, as you're going down more into the jungles of Bolivia, this is not thought to be built by the Incas. They don't know who built it. It's on top of a mountain, features these weird grooves, other things on the side. And here too, it's like there were other blocks of stone, other structures were apparently fitted into this, and they're now long gone. There's nothing there left except for the majority of the rock itself. Right near there, just in the nearby town that's down below the mountain, this guy is a Swiss Bolivian who owned an auto parts store, and he had a house up here, and he was digging it out, and what he found were all of these different stones that were like part of some kind of plumbing system that would have channeled water and stuff like that into this huge complex that now is basically gone. So as you go back to Lake Titicaca, which is on in Bolivia, on the southern part of the lake, is the amazing ruins of Tiwanaku. They're saying too that one of the largest pyramids in the world was at Tiwanaku. This is the Acabana. In the middle of it as well was like a man-made reservoir right up here. Around Lake Titicaca as well, there are underwater ruins. Jacques Cousteau went into Lake Titicaca, and there are stones there beneath, underwater. In Lake Titicaca as well are seahorses, and which is very curious. Seahorses are oceanic fish. I mean, they live in the oceans. They don't live at 13,000 feet. They do live in Lake Titicaca. What certain researchers have surmised is that Lake Titicaca was actually at sea level at one time, and it took seahorses and things like that up with it to 13,000 feet. And then as snows from the Andes came down, Lake Titicaca eventually became a freshwater lake. And in fact, the saltwater drained into another lake in Bolivia called Lake Popo. James Churchward, who was a British colonel in the 1800s, we'll talk about him more in a minute. He believed that South America had been, as tectonic plates rose and fall, that there was the Amazon Sea and there was some kind of canal going through, and that would be one possible explanation for like seahorses and stuff like that at Tiwanaku. At Tiwanaku is the famous Sun Gate. He's wearing a feathered headdress. He's carrying these rods. Tears are coming down his eyes. This thing itself is not really from where it is in Tiwanaku. Somebody in prehistory took this giant one piece of granite, and then it's actually from another area some miles away, and then he stuck it in this other area of Tiwanaku. But you can see here too how coming down here, this area is notched. Other huge walls would have been perfectly fitted into this. At Tiwanaku as well is this famous sunken temple, the Acabana, or the Coliseum they call it. And around that is there's hundreds of stone heads. It's supposedly to show all the different races of mankind are allegedly here depicted in this sunken temple. You've got here also Tiwanaku does have some andesite statues. He's wearing a turban. That's a kind of a curious thing. And at Tiwanaku and other areas too, people wore turbans. And it's sometimes said that in Atlantis, people wore a kind of a knotted.
The ancient Egyptians understood that they could use sound to reduce their weight and the gravity.
Turban. At Tiwanaku right now.
See, you see the turban, head wrap, or whatever people want to call them, but people call them turbans because they wrap like a tulip. That's where the word turban came from, the word tulip, or like the flower tulip. How a tulip is wrapped, that's how you wrap a turban. You know what I'm saying? You wrap it from one side, and you wrap the other side, and you wrap the other side, and it looks like a tulip. And even when you look at the turbans that some of the older women wear, I see a lot of older women wearing turbans. Now I don't know if that's just by a coincidence, or is that something that they doing subconsciously because that's what we wore. And he's giving reference to the turban once again, right? But let's get into it. I mean, I got sources that says most of the Muskogean tribes wore turbans, man. You know what I'm saying? So let's get back into it.
They're still excavating, and the work starts and stops. What they have found, and in fact, you're not supposed to take photos of this for some reason, but down here in Tiwanaku, what they found are all of these tunnels and passageways. And apparently Tiwanaku at one point had entire rivers diverted into it, and water was flowing throughout the city. And probably what it was some kind of huge metallurgical plant. And they were washing oil out and getting all kinds of various metals out of Tiwanaku. This is the famous Kon-Tiki statue that Thor Heyerdahl named his boats after some of his expeditions, where he would build these balsa rafts or these reed boats, and he would try and sell them across the oceans to prove transatlantic contact. He's known as Kon-Tiki. Notice here, he's got a beard, he's got a mustache. American Indians do not have facial hair. They don't grow beards. They don't have mustaches. He's also holding his hands in a special way.
Go figure that too, right? But I know a lot of Negroes who can't grow hair neither on their face. I've seen a lot of I mean, I'm not saying all of them, but I've seen some fucking Negroes some niggas shave their face bald. Some niggas, they don't even get a 5 o'clock shadow. You know what I'm saying? But he made it clear Native Americans don't grow beards. Have you ever seen an Indian with a fucking beard? You know what I'm saying? And I have to be careful on that because, they do show you some of them mongoloid looking or what they call them shit what's the other fucking group of people with an M? I can't think of the name of it, but they do show some of them Seminoles that do got that 6 eat their hair, that straight hair, right, with beards or with mustaches or some type of goatee or some hair on the chin and a mustache or something like that. But that's definitely an interesting point. And like I said, it's David Hatcher Childress, and like I say, I don't agree with nothing everybody says, but a lot of people do a lot of research on the Americas. There's a lot of facts that's in it. And there's a lot of things that they just don't truly understand. It's not that a lot of these people are actually being deceptive. They just don't truly understand what's going on. But then in some cases, for him to be able to be a archaeologist or a person that go around and observe and study the sites, right? Check this out, right? A person who observe and study the sites, right? He had to come across literature beside even Church Ward tells you that was Negroes in the Americas that came, according to what he said from Lemuria, right? So, a lot of people come across that and they just don't whatever they do, they try hard to dance around the fact that it was already Negroes in America. And a lot of them already know it, even if they would say, oh, Africans came here on ships. We don't believe that shit. But that's the narrative, is just to make it seem like, oh, wasn't no Negroes in America. Because now you will have to explain why some of these people who claiming that they Negroes, exactly who they are. They're not no freemen of no goddamn Cherokee or none of these $5 Indian tribes through the Bureau of Indian Affairs. None that's on some of these rolls that was created to disenfranchise you and change your whole political status, right, into a corporate construct, right? It's some more, man. It's real interesting. I like to listen to bills. I hope you guys enjoy it. Hit the like button, share the video out.
Way. This is known as the tiki position, and you see it in New Zealand, Tahiti, and things. One hand over your stomach, one hand over your heart. It's a very special thing in the Pacific Ocean, especially. And if you wear like a New Zealand greenstone pendant, he'll always have his hands that way. Yeah, so you have this Akabana, this giant pyramid. It had a lake on top of it. It apparently, even how they got water up, it was some kind of huge hydraulic works. They got water up in here, they stored it, it then washed down through Tiwanaku, through all these passageways and tunnels, apparently, in my mind, washing out the ores and things. About a mile away of Tiwanaku is a related site called Pumapunku. It too has giant blocks of granite, and there, again, are these keystone cuts. So here we go. In these keystone cuts, when they're at Ollantaytambo near Machu Picchu, well, they're built by the Incas. But now you have keystone cuts like this there at Tiwanaku. Tiwanaku's admitted to be pre-Inca. And in fact, you know, these giant blocks here, you wouldn't think they're going to go anywhere. But yeah, they wanted to put these keystone cuts and then metal clamps in here. This whole area is like some kids' building blocks, giant building blocks are just thrown around like some huge earthquake that destroyed Tiwanaku. Here, more of these keystone cuts. You see how there always has to be another stone on the other side for a keystone cut to work. Also, right nearby, I'm here with a British engineer. He now lives in America. His name is Christopher Dunn. He manages machine shops. When we travel to Egypt and South America and other places together, he's always bringing his technical gauges and things like that. And this stone here at Tiwanaku, and it has all of these holes drilled in it. It has grooves going through it. According to him, as he measured it, he felt that this had to be made by some kind of power machine. That's what he says. I mean, hand tools couldn't do this, according to him. He's saying that they're using power tools, and what he's even measuring is the distance of each of these holes. So this is, he's just a friend of mine, and he wrote a book called The Giza Power Plant. You might have heard of that book. His specialty really is looking at machining and how, in his mind, some blocks of stones are machined, and according to him, it can only be done by power tools. Also at Tiwanaku and Pumapunku, you see here typical trenching by archaeologists. It's like this 3, 4, 5 feet of muck and mud just wiped out this city. So archaeologists dig these trenches just to see what's down there, find something. And yeah, they find also these blocks, more of these keystone cuts. The clamps are gone. That any person coming along here, if these things are exposed, first thing they'll do is take those the clamps, and then they'll hammer them into spearheads and knives and swords and things like that. But you see here how these blocks, this building was just totally collapsed, but it's collapsed in basically some kind of giant mud flow and tidal wave of muck and mud that somehow came from Lake Titicaca or the rising of the Andes. This is what one of these blocks looks like with a metal clamp actually poured into place. You have to pour molten metals into these things. And that itself is a tricky process, and basically shows that somehow Tiwanaku was some huge metallurgical plant. Here are keystone cuts too. These are in Egypt. These are at Karnak, at Luxor. These Egyptian keystone cuts are often hourglass kind of shaped. This is also a keystone cut in Egypt. It's like an axe head type keystone cut. I mean, you actually find this all over the world. Now, mainstream archaeologists are saying, no connection here. Keystone cuts in Egypt and in Peru or Bolivia, no, there can't be any relationship, can there? But I mean, if that's true, I mean, that's incredible. I mean, how would people in far different places of the world create what is a pretty unusual method of fixing large blocks together? This is a wall at Edfu in southern Egypt near Aswan. And here you also see keystone cuts, Bolivia and South America. Bolivian and German archaeologists in the 30s, as they began excavating, I mean, they were amazed at these buildings. I mean, and architects, as they try and drew pictures of them, this is what they thought they looked like. These perfectly fitted granite blocks articulated with these Swiss crosses and things like that. I mean, it was some kind of amazing structure built by expert builders. I mean, these guys were stonemasons par excellence. And this is what they think these huge buildings are like. Today, I mean, this is a bleak area of Bolivia. This is also, by the way, where the potato originates. And all around Lake Titicaca, there's over 300 types of potato. This is what some of these guys look like around Tiwanaku. He looks very American Indian. He's got a piercing here. He's wearing a turban. This is a pont. These guys are from Tiwanaku too. Look at this guy down here. He looks very Chinese, very Oriental.
That nigga don't look like no fucking Chinese. That like a goddamn nigga. Look how wide his motherfucking head is. He look just like one of you big head ass Negroes. That statue right there, somebody's Asian and shit. Come on, man. Like I said, definitely duck that part of the conversation, because it's always gonna be they always gonna deviate from the fact that it was Negroes in America. And some people come on and say it. And then but they never would say that you're in an Atanchan. They will always say that you had to travel from somewhere else and come here, right? Like, wasn't nobody on this big ass fucking vast continent of land naturally, right? Nobody, everybody in all these other continents and all these other places, right? But this so-called place, look, think of it like this, right? There's people on all the continents. They don't never give you no stories on where no Asian people came from, unless they go back to the out of Africa theory. Everybody started in Africa and went to Europe and went to Asia, East Asia, India, and then the so-called Mongols came through the Americas, and that's the only reason why you find them in America. Other than that, you find the people in Americas. They had to come here with Al-Bukhari or Mansa Musa or one of these ridiculous ass fucking stories. They never show you a true Atanchan of the land in America. And they only go back as far as most of the people with conventional science and conventional archaeology and ethnography, right? They only go back no further than 14,000 years in America. No further. So when nobody here over 14,000 years ago, but you got traces of people being everywhere else, right? With the exception of them, because they got a 6,000 year timeline, which they wasn't here, to tell you who the fuck was here before they got here. You know what I'm saying? How you gonna go to a place and you go to a place, and then once you get there, you know where, you know all of the history, and you knew on the porch. You just came off the porch. So you new to the world, but you know everything. You can publish books, you can write stuff, you can do articles, and some people collect information, and a lot of that shit fall right in my lap. Oh shit, look what I found. Let's do the remix single on it, because we got the technology to do the remix single, because we got other articles and other oppositions of people, or people of perspective that don't fit into these timelines or don't fit into the narrative that we've been taught, right? And let me show you something real quick. Let me get real. Let me stop it real quick. Peace to the gods, peace to the goddesses. If you just came in, please close the door and wipe your feet at the door. Share the video out, like the video. If you like to donate, you already know what time it is. So, all right, let's go. I want to just throw this one. Now, I'm gonna throw you a curve quick. Matter of fact, let me see this one. I think it's this article right here. Let me see something. Still here with y'all. I'm just looking through something because I was looking for something in particular in this one article, but not. But just since I pulled it up, it's the oldest man-made structure in America is older than Egyptian pyramids, which we already know, right? But now they changed the date, right? It said the grass-covered mound represent 11,000 years of human history, right? And this is the LSU mound. So they build a college on your ancestors' ancient burial and ancient religious, you know what I'm saying, burial or mounds, right? So they saying these are the oldest man-made structures, right? But that's not true because I mean it is to a sense, but from what I was just pulling up, let me see if it's still up here. Nah, let me see something real quick. Look, it's right here anyway, so just give me 1 second. It's loading up. Oh, come on, computer. This bullshit. All right, it's right there. All right, give me 1 second. I'm looking for something just pulled up. All right, shit, where the fuck is it at? All right, here we go. All right, this part right here. All right, so they talking about an area in which they found that was in Brazil, right? So it say the indication that the deliberate cultivation existed 32,000 years ago in Brazil, right? And it said do indicate that the art, art I'm sorry, agriculture knowledge was virtually wiped out at the time of the deluge. They talking about when the flood took place or whatever, right? But they saying that they had a cultivation and civilization in Brazil 32,000 years ago, right? And watch how they put the spin on it, right? So it say what knowledge was lost. I'm sorry, what knowledge was lost and what knowledge retained by these ancient settlers and resettlers of now look, they saying Mesopotamia and Mesoamerica, right? It's saying if they had the knowledge of how to build step pyramids and erect astronomical astronomical observatories, why did it take them so long to build it, right? So we know according to like what's that Chichen Itza. In Chichen Itza, there's an astronomical observatory with the swivel dome in it, right? I'm just touching on that, but I really was touching on the fact that in this book that they said it was civilization in Brazil 32,000 years ago. And that's what I'm saying. A lot of this stuff goes back further than we can even imagine, right? But let me get back to what I was talking about. So we was talking about the mounds, 11,000 years, right? And then I think it's this one right here. Yes, okay, it's this one. So All right, so it say some tribes in the lower Mississippi Valley were still occupying mounds when the French settlers arrived. So there was no French speculation about the origins of the banded mounds. The best known of these last mound builders was the Natchez, right? Now remember, the French are the Arcadian, the French are Negroes, the French are not no Europeans. The reason you see the Creole people, that's because Negroes was mixing with these European. Negro men was sleeping with these European women. That's where the whole term Creole came from, with these European slaves, bro. It's vice versa. You know what I'm saying? But however it go, the French came from through Arcadia or Nova Scotia down through Detroit, Chicago, and all that shit. That's why they even tell you in Chicago, they say, oh, Chicago was founded by a Haitian. How did a Haitian get all the way to Chicago and find it? Or do Haitians speak Creole? And could, because of the language, can we mistaken that and give that credit to somebody from Haiti, which sounds ridiculous for somebody to travel all the way and go up. Don't even make no sense. But we know that the French was Negroes and they was in the area of Arcadia, and they, and not saying in the area, they lived there. They had settlements there. It wasn't just like they was travel. Yeah, they come through Canada this year, and then oh shit, let's go down to Mississippi and let's see what's down. Nah, these people was already part of something that was already going on here. But nonetheless, though, right? So the French settlers arrived, so there was no speculation saying, but the best known of these last mound builders was Natchez, which I touched on a couple about a week or so ago, right? They also stopped building mounds after 1720, according to what they say, right? It's saying Indian mounds, right? And the common name for a variety of solid structures erected by some of the indigenous people of the United States, right? Now, look, it says most Native American tribes did not build mounds, right? Most Native American tribes did not build mounds, right? The majority was constructed by the lower southeast Ohio River Valley, Tennessee River Valley, and the Mississippian River Valley. Some types of shell mounds can be found along the entire length of the United States Atlantic coast. So he's saying shell mounds could be found along, he said, can be found along the entire length of the United States Atlantic coast. So the entire length would be from Nova Scotia all the way goddamn down to the tip of fucking Florida, right? That would be the whole Atlantic coast, right? But anyway, the fact that they saying Native Americans didn't build these mounds, right? And then see, the thing of it is they don't put no face or even an identity on the people who built the mounds. They try hard to buck dance even around that question. Well, who built the mounds? Oh, we know Africans didn't build mounds because there's no mounds in Africa. None that I've seen. You know what I'm saying? So who is the people? And give me a phenotype and a ethnicity and a race of the people who built this. Oh, they looked at just like the Native Americans, but they just lived here, and that's, get the fuck out of it. We already know we built the mounds, and that already shows you that they ancient structures, as they saying. So that's telling you your people was already it. And like a lot of these mounds, yeah, they have built towns around them to hide the mounds. They have built golf courses over them. They have made a lot of these national fucking parks. A lot of these national parks got ancient structures in it. A lot of them. That's why they got national parks. They don't even let you go. You ain't. If you seen it, you ain't gonna know what it is, unless you with somebody who's an archaeologist or somebody know they have seen that particular structure, even if it is covered in the vegetation. However, right? But somebody in the chat room was like, Native Americans didn't build that. And that just kind of gave me, just to put that out there. But let me see something real quick. All right, we don't. My thing wasn't to go into the mounds, but just to just put that out there that they give credit to Native Americans for every fucking thing, right? Even when you ask the questions, because most of the mounds is in areas where our people resided at. So what happened to the people who was in these areas? Then they give you the Trail of Tears story, which is fake. It's fake because most of your people still lived in the same. You the Indian. You the Indian, right? Everybody say they the Indian, right? So most of your people lived or got roots to them same areas where they saying that these tribes was at that because you're there, you're the African American, but none of us look like the Native Americans. What do an Indian look like? Please give me a ethnicity and a race to what these people look like. So I will understand. So I can come to a understand. Are they dark skinned people? Okay, yeah, they're copper color. Okay, so show me one today. Show me a copper color Native American. Show me one. Where are they located at? Where they at? You know what I'm saying? So let's go back into a little bit more of this real quick.
This guy's from Tiwanaku as well. He looks like he's a Phoenician guy or something. He's got a big beard and a mustache. American Indians do not have facial hair. They don't shave, they don't grow mustaches, they don't grow beards. As you go down to the coast in South America, Peru, you then find a lot of these weird skulls, and they're at Tiwanaku too. Huge, huge dolicephalus, cranial deformation, as they call it. I often call them cone heads. In my new book on Mystery of the Olmecs, I have a whole section about this. These guys, these ones in Peru particularly they have doubled or tripled their cranium, and their brain inside is also twice as large as modern humans. This guy here too, with this huge, weird skull. Not the kind of guys you want to meet in a dark alley. Also in Peru, you have guys like this. And he's been tree panned, and he's had a gold plate put in his head after some kind of...
Peekaboo, Paul Stamets here. Welcome to the enchanted forest of Coast Defense. Here, hidden among the
kind of brain surgery. And he survived, went on to live for years, and his skull then healed and formed around this gold plate that they put in his head. This skull too, we don't know if this happened before or after his death, but he got a set of crystal teeth. Here's the famous crystal skull. We were looking at it before. This is the Anna Mitchell Hedges one with the movable jaw stone and stuff like that. The making of crystal skulls is very difficult. That the Mayans and other people could carve really quartz crystal. You need like diamond tools, diamond drills, diamond saws, and things like that to work on these things. You have also more skulls here, and this one's also this one's in Mexico here. Some of these guys too, they often were thought to have red hair, and you see red-haired skulls in Peru. This guy's wearing a red turban. This is a skull from Peru. He's a red-haired guy. You might think maybe Vikings or somebody like that were headed into Peru. Right along here, and this one's also this one's in Mexico here. Some of these guys.
Don't they look like some type of locks? Maybe it's me. It don't look like regular hair, or it could be a fucking wig put on it, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. With these people, they be creating all types of shit right here. Red-haired European, right? Good one.
Too, they often were thought to have red hair, and you see red-haired skulls in Peru. This guy's wearing a red turban. This is a skull from Peru. He's a red-haired guy. You might think maybe Vikings or somebody like that were headed into Peru. Right along the coast of Peru near Paracas is this, the candlestick of the Andes, it's called. Can really only be seen from the ocean. It's like some huge naval marker for sailors. And you're coming down the coast of Peru and you see this thing, and then you have an idea, okay, this is where we need to dock. Also in this area, and this is the area of these giant, weird, deformed skulls and stuff too, you have the Nazca Plain. And you want to fly over this, you can't really see these things unless you're flying in the air. There's hummingbirds, there's all kinds of lines. Some of these lines go for hundreds of miles straight through the Andes up towards Tiwanaku. This one here, there's like hummingbirds and things like that etched into the ground. Weird trapezoids just sort of going here, lines intersecting willy-nilly. I mean, what's it all about? I mean, they're trying to figure it out. There must be a lot of different things superimposed on each other. They look for astronomical and astrological alignments, things like that. And they find some, but it really just doesn't explain all the stuff they're doing there. It's still a mystery. My latest book has been about the Olmecs, and I more and more that I research the Olmecs, the more mysterious they got. They too had the deformed skulls. They would do this cone head thing and elongate their heads. This is what these Olmec guys look like this. They have these elongated skulls, weird eyes, a bunch of oddball characters. This one too, this is in the Yucatan, this skull. This guy's actually had his whole face flattened and widened. Now, we don't know why they did this. It has to do with the aristocracy. We do know that as children, young babies, before the plates in their heads fuse when they're about 2 years old, if you can start to shape the skull. And apparently this is what they did. We don't know if they were imitating other people they saw. I mean, that's one theory. Well, they were imitating extraterrestrials or something like that. They wanted to double the capacity of their brain. They wanted to look taller. It was some kind of elitist thing too, where it was the aristocracy who looked like this. The Olmecs weren't even known until really the early 1940s, and that they started finding these giant basalt heads. They weigh about 20 tons. They would find them in the oil exploration areas of the Atlantic coast. Huge, huge basalt heads just in swamps and things like that. Bulldozers would uncover them. And one of the things about the colossal heads, as these guys are called, is that they look really African. They're wearing helmets or turbans. They have the wide nose and the thick lips. They look like some Nigerian rugby players or something like that. They find these too in the Pacific coast too. They find them in Guatemala. Olmec artifacts have been found all the way down to Costa Rica and Panama, and well up the Pacific coast. Well, some of the Olmec heads were they were a trail, and finally people noticed a nose and stuff like that, and then archaeologists began to dig it out. Here's that head now at the one of the museums in Jalapa. But you see how, in this case, very, very African-looking guys. This guy too. This is how they find them. These giant, giant weird heads. This is made out of basalt as well, which is extremely hard to carve. Also, at some of these Olmec cities, the La Venta, very, very good sewage and water systems. These cities were like pre-planned cities. Extremely well made. Tehuantepec, this area right down in here. Although the Olmecs were up the Pacific coast, they were down into Guatemala and El Salvador, even farther south. But this is the area of the Olmecs. It's called the Isthmus of Tehuantepec in the very southern part of Mexico. And it's the narrowest part of Mexico between the Pacific and the Atlantic Oceans. And in fact, when they were first trying to build something like the Panama Canal, there were three places that they wanted to do it. One was here at the Isthmus of Tehuantepec, and the other one was in Nicaragua, and the third was in Panama, where they did build the canal. What the Mexican government did instead of building a canal across here was they built a railroad to connect these areas. But it's interesting here that the Olmecs, this was their area. Those colossal heads are in this Atlantic area, but it's thought that the Olmecs originally started here around in the Pacific area where Guatemala come together. This guy's an Olmec too. Here, he looks very Egyptian. He appears to have a false beard. He's wearing a headdress that's kind of Egyptian. This guy's an Olmec. In fact, everything that they used to ascribe to the Mayans, they now ascribe to the Olmecs. That's the number system, the hieroglyphs, the ball game. He's holding a rubber ball here. Soccer, football, it originated with the Olmecs. How about that? By the way, the Olmecs typically are said to go back to about 1,300 BC. So over 3,000 years ago, at least, for the Olmecs. Here's a chart at Comacalco, one of the Olmec capitals. These are all these guys are what they look like. They're weird, elongated heads. This guy down here looks very Chinese. Weird guys. They were obsessed with jade as well. And to the Olmecs and Mayans, as well as the Chinese, jade was the most valuable of all the commodities. In fact, these guys, these figurines of Olmecs, they're made of jade. And you can see again what these guys look like, the long hair, kind of oriental sort of eyes in a way. Mainstream archaeologists are saying, well, American Indians, you know, they don't have any connection with Africa or Pacific or any place like that. Well, the Egyptians also did this cranial binding too, and creating the elongated craniums. This is Meritaten, who was one of the daughters of Akhenaten Nefertiti. And she too is basically a cone head with cranial deformation. Tutankhamun, he's also a cone head. He has a deformed cranium as well. This is a statue from his tomb. And this is what he looked like. You can get this is also Tutankhamun. You get a better idea of what his head was. Also in Tutankhamun's tomb, by the way, was a trunk of boomerangs. Not just one boomerang. No, he was a boomerang nut. And a whole trunk of boomerangs. And yes, it's an Australian Aboriginal thing. Well, the Egyptians hunted with boomerangs. Boomerangs have been found all over the world. And boomerangs have been used in the American Southwest and Mexico as well. If you go to the Mexico City Museum, you'll see boomerangs. This whole thing of cranial deformation was worldwide. Kurds in northern Iraq were still doing this right up in the 1960s. Pacific Islands like Vanuatu, they were also doing this right up until modern times. This is in the Belgian Congo. This is a photograph taken in the 1920s. This kid,
Neurologists are stunned. They've confirmed that ear ringing is shrinking your brain cells. Tinnitus
head is bound. He's gonna be a cone head when he grows up, you know. And a weird looking one too. This is a unique statue because he's in an unusual kneeling position known as Qizuo. And this is a Shang Chinese dynasty statue from the Shang dynasty. Was about also 1,300 BC. And the Qizuo position is this unusual position of being on your knees with your hands on your knees and your head forward. Here's an Egyptian statue in the Qizuo position. This is you're kneeling forward, your hands are on your knees, and it's it's an unusual position, one that has to do with some kind of subjugation to a ruler. You get down in front of the king, you're on your knees, you put your head forward. and you put your hands on your knees. At Tiwanaku, also, statues were found like this, with their hands on their knees, they're kneeling down, they're wearing turbans too.
You notice all the structures that he's mentioning, he's saying that they wearing turbans. You know what I'm saying? That's just another thing to just keep a mental note of. Just the turban technology that we see, and we see it in the Bowman Park murals. We see it in other we see it in the Olmecs as well, and also we see it in the southeast among the Cherokees and amongst the Muskogee tribes. Period. Right? We see that turban head wrap, whatever the fuck you want to call it. You can call it a fucking scarf tied around your head. I don't care what you call it. But if anybody who recognized it, they would assume it to go under the terminology of a turban. So let's get back into it a little bit. I'm gonna drop the link for a minute, man. I'm gonna let this play out a little bit more. I had something else I wanted to go in or whatever. I'm probably gonna rock out maybe about another 45 minutes. But definitely like the video, share the video out, and like the donate. You already know where to go. So let's get back into this shit. Nah, you ain't your grandmother ain't wear no turban. It's like, nah, I'm playing with you. I mean that's about right, because a lot of our grandmothers wore turbans. You know what I'm saying? So, it's I mean, look, man, the gig is up, man. Let's get back into it.
Here, these have been moved into the Tiwanaku Museum right now. The Olmecs as well. Many of the statues, the Olmecs, are in this curious Quizuo kneeling position. This guy has this top head on him, and that's what the Easter Island statues had, that too, a red top knot. They were wearing these red hats. This is a small statue from Harappa in the Indus Valley. He too is in this unusual kneeling Quizuo position. Very unusual and distinctive. Again, mainstream archaeologists are saying, oh, no connection here. Rongo writing, which is the writing on Easter Island. Here's this remote island. Easter Island is one of the remotest islands in the world. Hawaii is also quite remote. And they supposedly developed their own language. It's written as the ox plowed, with what they call Bosafuidran writing, where each line is read left to right, and the next line right to left to right. And that writing, which is still undeciphered, but it's very similar to the Indus Valley writing that today you find in India and Pakistan. This is a Rongo tablet with the curious hieroglyphs. Each line is read left to right, then right to left to right. Doric Greek was written like this. Also Hittite, the Hittite. And it's thought also that the Hittites were some of the people who were mining some of the copper up in northern Michigan. This is Hittite writing here. And Hittite writing was early Hittite writing was a hieroglyphic writing like Egyptian. And it would be left to right to left, or up and down, and then up, down. There's this statue on Easter Island too. Very curious statue, very unlike the other ones, with breasts, also weird, elongated skull. This is a stone statue, supposedly depicting maybe what somebody actually looked like. Here it would have had quite the unusual cone head, I would say. Other statues on Easter Island were, according to the legends, they were placed around the edge of the island, looking into the interior of the island. So what they did was they took some of the statues and they moved them around the island, and they faced them inward, and they put eyes in the island, in the faces. So they had these inlaid eyes. And according to the legend that they say, and this is in the tourist brochures at Easter Island, they claim that Easter Island was part of another land they call Hiva, Hiva. But Hiva disappeared beneath the waves of the Pacific Ocean. But Easter Island was the fulcrum, and it stayed above the water. And today, Easter Island is a small triangular island. And so what they did was they took these statues and they placed them all around the outside of the island, facing inward with these eyes. And this is what they say, that this power came out of their eyes called mana. And in fact, mana is like a Sanskrit word. And it means occult power. And the power came out of the eyes of these statues. This is what they say. And it protected the island and kept it from sinking beneath the waves. This is a very well-known, popular legend on Easter Island. What happened later, in fact, there was a war between the long ears and the short ears, they say, on Easter Island. It's another thing with the Easter Island statues. They have very, very long earlobes. I mean, quite extended. And you see this Buddha, depictions of Buddha. He also has very big earlobes. Kind of interesting thing to look at with when you see statues and things, whether they have these like really big earlobes. Easter Island statues have that. You can see how some of the statues are so huge. Now, according to the islanders, these statues walked around the island themselves. That's what they say, although they didn't have feet. Some of them, here's the guy who's in the Kuzuo position here, kneeling. He's a unique statue. There's only one statue on Easter Island like that. You can see, too, how these things are so buried. Guy standing, this is part of Thor Heyerdahl's expeditions. And in fact, even a boat is like drawn on this chest down here. But, you have to wonder, like, why is there so much soil built up around it? Archaeologists are saying, oh, these statues have only been here a few hundred years before the Spanish got there. But I mean, in my mind, it seems like they've been there for thousands of years. How they move these statues around, they don't know. The islanders say that they walked where they went. So when you go to Easter Island, they say, well, yeah, they built these cradles, and this is kind of a small statue, and they rocked it around, and eventually they got it somewhere, and they stood it up. Although it would make a lot more sense if they really walked these statues upright, like a refrigerator that you might walk around. And although, according to them, they honestly believe that the statues themselves actually walked. And in fact, here's a weird thing. The statues could only walk in a clockwise manner around the island. Here's where the crater is, over here where they're made, this area. And then they had to walk. So according to Easter Islanders, this is weird.
I'm not in agreement with no fucking statues getting up walking, all right? So I hope you guys got enough sense to know that I don't agree with that part. So, like, I mean, if you guys agree with it, then that's cool. But I don't agree with I never seen a statue walk. And until I see one walk, then I'll be in agreement with what he's saying. So for anybody to come up with any ridiculous explanation to how a so-called structure was moved or whatever, then that's just, I don't know. That's just people really reaching. They just trying to create any explanation for themselves to be able to accept the information. So what y'all saying in the chat room? Hold up, man. What you saying, Jason? You saying that the statues did walk, my dude? Hold up, I'm just looking. I ain't trying to, your brother, you my brother. I ain't trying to be funny or nothing. I'm just asking. Or are you playing? If they did move, they had to be moved by some type of telepathic power. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that happened. But as far as them moving, they ain't got no spinal cord. They ain't got no nervous system to where their brain sends signals to go through their nerves in order to move their muscles so that their limbs can move. So the only way I would think that they would have been able to be moved, it would have to be by some telepathic, like, power. Like they were saying, people was using these devices. I'm not saying that this shit is true. I don't really believe it. I don't know how the fuck they built none of this shit. I'm not the expert of it. You know what I'm saying? And they didn't leave a blueprint, nor did they leave a blueprint to any of these people, because they all speculating at this point in time, just like we are. We're speculating too. I don't know how they built any of this shit. And just like to lead me back to what the when I was talking about Cleopatra Needle, how was that taken from Egypt all the way to fucking Central Park is a goddamn lie. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's just them trying to make an explanation to put an artifact that's not supposed to be in Americas and give an explanation to how they got to the Americas. Okay? So let me see. I'm gonna drop the link, man. Anybody want to come in and have a word this morning? Don't worry about it. I won't bite any of y'all. But just like I said, that respect thing is mandatory. It's non-optional. It's low tolerance around here among Pan-Africans and anybody who is not trying to process any of the material that's being presented to them. So, but Aboriginals, y'all get all the love. So at the end of the day. So let me see something. Let me see if there's anything else to see here. Yeah, I'm gonna let this rock out a little bit more.
There's this magnetic field right around here. In fact, Jacques Cousteau's son Philippe had an ultralight on the boat, and the Calypso, and they told him, they said, well, if you're going to fly your ultralight around Easter Island, don't stay away from this volcano over here. They said, don't fly over there. And because there's this anomalous magnetic field, and in fact, compasses won't work right on Easter Island. They won't point north. They'll point to this thing right here. Philippe Cousteau, it totally ignored them, jumped in his ultralight, took off, flew around this mountain. The instruments in his ultralight went crazy. He crashed and was almost killed, and they had to medevac him to Santiago, to the hospital, to save his life. So it's kind of a curious thing that supposedly, and I get into this in my book about lost cities and ancient Lemuria in the Pacific, like there are statues around this part of the coast, but here's the quarry. But the Easter Islanders are saying, oh, well, for a statue, couldn't go from here to over there, that short distance. According to them, the statue had to walk around this magnetic thing here and come like this.
Hey, I don't know if he trying to be funny, man, but that shit sound funny as hell. The way he can say the statue just got up and walked around like that. That's hilarious, man. What's up, brother? Hey, how you pronounce your name, Abdullah?
Merci.
Nassif. All right, peace to the God, Nassif, brother. What you got for us, man?
I say, you ever looked up a golem?
A golem? What you mean? When as the small hats, what they be saying? Golem?
Golem. Yeah, GOLEM. If you look it up, it's in like they also talk about it like in the Kabbalah, Yeah. But really it's like sorcery, but it was a way to imbue energy into a statue to get it to move.
Like chi power.
Yeah, exactly.
Mental concentration. When they say when you fasting and you meditate a lot, you able to. I've seen people move shit with their mind. I'm not saying that can't be done. I don't know. Was it a fucking rope tied to the object that they move? But according to the person that was interviewing him, he's supposed to be a real serious investigative reporter that's interviewing this individual. You know what I'm saying? So I've seen things like that, but I haven't seen a motherfucker move a car or even a little car like a fucking Prius or one of them little Urco cars and shit you see on the road today. You know,
Yeah, I was talking more like sorcery.
like sorcery. Yeah,
Yeah,
well, telepathic powers. That's real. We know people can.
yeah,
We know that they got people somewhere in some of these laboratories that they won't let out into society because they do have power like that.
yeah. Like a lot of people don't believe in magic, but there's just no way to explain a lot of things in history without it. You know, and the ancient Egyptian, basically every ancient society admitted basically to doing some type of form of magic. So there's science. You know what it is? There's science that you do as far as like material. Like you put these elements together and you was able to make these things work together to perform a certain result. Like if you made AI, right? You made a robot, you made an android, you put these things together, and then you're able to use electronics to make it do what you wanted to do. Magic is kind of like getting the same result, but like bypassing the third dimension. Meaning, like you were saying, like mind power, but like you're going into the fifth dimension. Like you're going beyond the physical to get the same result.
And that's why you seen, like, even among the five PP Sister Soul, even among the Father Crispic artifacts, which I'm gonna play a brief video on that just to show you the artifacts itself or what they actually show. But the shaman, he has a serpent coming out of his pineal gland. You see the same symbology in Egypt, or well, not Egypt, or what they show you, the so-called statues of. We don't even know if this shit is real. That shit could have been found in America, and even the shit that they show you in Egypt could have been the shit that they stolen from the Grand Canyon, or in the other numerous other artifacts that were stolen from America and staged other places. Because like
Pictures of them buildings, the whole temple in Egypt, like that's fake now.
they done moved it. You could show them they moved. What is y'all doing touching that shit? Using shit to cut it up and move it around. Why are you moving it? Why would you stage it in a place that it wasn't originally at? Why? Why are you going around touching shit you ain't got no business touching? Because that y'all built that shit. That shit is all some fake shit.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
transport our minds over there.
No doubt. We got another we got my sister on the panel. Sister Soul, what's up?
Peace, brother. Grand Rising, see you and your chat. What's crazy, A1. Now, last night I did a bill on the transplanting and reformed church in America. It was crazy. As soon as you start showing the obelisk, you was like, oh yeah, they're saying they moved it here to Central Park. I'm like, hold on. I said it had to have already been there. Now what in this book, brother, what it was going over certain information on how, I don't want to get off the subject, but on the obelisk itself, right? The fact of the things we read in there, brother, it was showing how all these areas were right there, all on the Hudson River, Manhattan area, New York, New Amsterdam, what was it? New Netherland. There were a couple of other different areas. So you already know that all these areas were over here. So where they're trying to say, oh, they moved this here because it kind of deters you from thinking that, oh, well, it was already here because maybe there was some type of empire that was part of, like per se, New Amsterdam or New Netherland, which is in now New York, because now what used to be New Netherland, that is in the Rhode Island and Long Island area and near Manhattan, right all up in that area. And mind you, that's the richest like area now, like where all the so-called rich people live. And that's one of the first places they colonized right there. And they turned it into that area in Manhattan. When they came in, they brought in the priest. They had to have a priest, they had to have a school teacher, and they had to have somebody that knew something about like healthcare or a medicine person, right? So they get the charter through the West Indies Company, bring them over, give them a plot of land, give them like 50 acres of land and shit. Then once they have those three components in place, then the government would set them up, which was like the reservation. They would give them the colony and they'll start setting up. If they have 50 or more people, at that point in time, they could be appointed a chief of that particular area. This is how they got all these people to come in and say they were chiefs in some of these tribes and so on and so forth. Not trying to go too far subject, brother, but I definitely want to mention that because it's like everything, like you say, I always be saying the same thing, A1. Every time they say the new world, I say, well, y'all know that's really the old world. The old world is the new world. What's old is new. They tell us this stuff all the time, so it's nothing new to us. But I definitely wanted to point that out, brother. They had the constitutions they set up behind this Reformed church with the Deutsch and using this the West Indies Company because they're the ones who started a lot of the trade out of America. They started transporting and moving along the area through that Hudson Bay and transporting things out. And there's also so much that they transport, like 2 times the amount. Like say it shows the import and output in another book of say they sending over like 26,000 from one area supposedly, right? They were sending like 300 and some thousand from America to over here. You know what I'm saying? Because everything, it shows that everything was here. Everything. I'm sorry, brother. It's just tripping me out because you're talking about that, and it's just more confirmation for me.
Nah, you good. Like the video I showed yesterday, I'm like I said, I'm about to show a little bit more of that the artifacts that they found in Ecuador, right? They saying that they're Sumerian, right? They saying that they're Sumerian. And like I said, the Sumerians and the Ammonites are from here, right? They're saying that they're Sumerian, and when he asked them how old it was, he was like, he didn't give him a time because he was like, man, I don't know. It's like, fuck, I don't know. What do I know at this point in time, right? Finding this shit, right? But he was at least generous to say, all right, well, at least 10,000 years. He probably wanted to say longer, but he's saying according to what he's allowed to say, 10,000 years. So they found Sumerian artifacts in America 10,000 years ago. Look, you go back and look up Mesopotamia, right? So originating from different areas in present-day Iraq, dominated Mesopotamia from the beginning of written history. Now, they say it's the beginning of written history, 3100 BC. Okay, 3100 BC plus 2023, that will be 56. No, yeah, that would be 5,600 years. No, 2,300 years, if I'm saying it right. Y'all understand, right? So now the pyramid I just showed, the one that was in Cuba, that these people saying is fake again, right? They saying that goes back over 6,000 years. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. That goes back over 6,000 years. And the shit he was showing you in Machu Picchu, that shit is over. That shit is old. That shit is around the same time of Mesopotamia. But you still find the same artifacts you find in Mesopotamia. You see what I'm saying? So it's a lot of stuff like dealing with the Americas of how they flim-flam shit. And I say this too, Sister Soul, right? Mm-hmm. In New York, right? New York got a lot of ancient buildings in New York. In New York, in Manhattan itself. And Manhattan itself got a lot of ancient fucking buildings in it, man. And as you go, like a lot of like Central Park area, it gives you an idea that there was a advanced civilization living in them areas, as well as in Brooklyn too. In Brooklyn, you see the same thing because, like I said, I showed you Prospect Park. But you got brownstones in Brooklyn that got the same type of like building structures, like
and then they're all close, like built. It's something about the way they're built together. All those brownstones, right? You know how they're close up together.
It's a longhouse. It's a longhouse. It's just don't have an interest going through all the buildings, all the buildings doesn't have access to all of them, but it ain't nothing but a longhouse
But
style
they
building.
used to. I'm sorry, let me say this, A1. They used to though, brother. A lot of those areas, right? When you see those brownstones, you might not know it. There was a lot of underground cities, brother, and they would be able to travel, be like under their basements, like if going down certain areas, they did a lot of trading and stuff there, under the ground. They were back then using a system that was an underground system to trade and go to different cities. So they, with them doing that, this is why a lot of that was set up like that, and that's how a lot of people, they got rid of a lot of our people when they came over here and destroying certain parts so that they could rebuild over certain structures. Some of them they just couldn't because they were so massive. And like you said, with New York, those areas, right? They were the main point. New York, Chicago, California. There's another area I can't think offhand, but there are certain areas that they came in and that they were doing the main porting and transporting it, and they were doing it forever. So this is why you see these large structures. And that structure that you were showing in Chicago, right? And you said, yeah, this is where the World Fair was. That's literally the Museum of Science and Industry. That's right on 55th Street in Chicago right now, right off of the lake, because that was a port area. This is where they ported everything to the water. And Lake Michigan had the large port area there. They even had the Wabanzi Stone, which was a big, huge, large Indian head that rarely anybody knows about. They even tried to watch that information so bad, but they have that Indian head was there because that was one of the largest ports in the area. They would come right there, right to where that fair was at. And they had the same thing in New York. When you go to like Manhattan and you go over these certain areas where you were showing that structure, we were like, oh yeah, look at this. It looked like you could see a road that's going to the smaller towns, this, and that. That literally looks like the areas of New York. And like going into the island, like Rhode Island, Long Island, all those like areas where they could go off to other parts and it was like another little island. That's literally, that looked just like it to me when you were showing us that picture.
You talking about? Hold on, let me see something. You talking about this one right here?
You'd be
Oh shit!
crazy,
I
brother.
thought I was sharing my show. No, I was sharing it. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like it's like when you really see now, you know, you got the science to build it. We didn't think we had the science to build it when we first came into this information. You talking about Tenochtitlan, right? This is what they say it looked
Right
like.
here. Yep.
Like, and
That looked
the
like that
little
could be like
islands.
earlier New York, like
You know?
earlier, like the olden time in New York.
Yep.
All that area
Mhm.
like that, I swear it looked like that to me.
Because it
Oh,
did.
look at the buildings. They look at the buildings around it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like these buildings. Look, this look like a church. This look
Hmm.
like a church. Look,
The
you know what I'm
cathedrals,
saying?
yeah.
And
Cathedral,
the
yes,
cathedral.
exactly.
See what I'm saying?
That's what I'm
So
saying.
it's
The
like, you know,
cathedral.
we see the same type of structures, right? And you see this? It's like a round temple, like the one the Anasazis got, where they say the only places they say they seen these round temples at, besides the Anasazi, was in North Africa. Go figure that. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Go figure that, right? But you see it's a road. This shit had to be built on top of the water, unless they built the dam and then put the water back after they built it. Either two
Hmm.
ways. You know what I'm
They could
saying?
have did.
So, now go ahead, brother.
I was gonna say, no, they could have did that. You know, they what do they call it? I forgot the word.
Floating islands.
Uh, no, it's I don't know why the word escaping me right now, but it has to do with like the water irrigation. They're irrigation techniques for off off the chain. Yeah,
Oh
so
no,
yeah, they could.
we got the proof for the irrigation systems in America. We got the proof for that. That's an American. All of this shit is an American Indian encyclopedia. Everything that he was mentioning, but I just, you know, when people hear a European baffled by the shit that they find in America, then that leads to other conversations, which like you said, we already been showing a lot of these different structures, cross-referencing it, also cross-referencing with other literature that says that the people here had the science to leave here and go other places and create colonies in them other places. Not just go over there and be like, oh, we made it. Nah, nigga, let's get to work. and building up cities and build, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? These are not no type of personal accomplishments or no bucket list shit, nigga. Niggas was traveling. They had a mission. It was a mission for them to get over there to be able to erect a lot of the structures and a lot of stuff we see. And like I said, like even New York City. Go to New York. New York has a lot of structures that I've seen myself, and I'm looking at them shits like, wait a minute, man. Wait a minute. I gotta, you know what I'm saying? Like, none of this shit makes any sense, bro.
And Chicago, brother. I'm sorry, I gotta say, Chicago and New York. Oh my gosh, it's so many similarities in the structure of these places. That's why I say I know they were the main ports, because there's so many. It's crazy. Just even the buildings. Like when the first time I ever went to New York and I saw the brownstones, I'm looking like, dang, these look like some of the apartments in Chicago. A lot of the apartments in Chicago, especially the ones on Lakeshore Drive, oh my gosh, they look almost the same, like the brownstones.
They got brownstones in Chicago too. Yeah. And listen, you know what's unique about that, Sister Soul, is when you look on maps from the early 16 and 1500s, you know what cities that's highlighted in America? Chicago and New York, and also New Jersey, with the same buildings illustrated on the maps.
Crazy.
Don't forget Philadelphia. Don't forget Philadelphia too.
Don't forget, Philadelphia as well. Philadelphia as well. Cannot forget about the great Philadelphia. Philadelphia was the capital of the capital before colonization. This is where all the other nations came to get their tribunal down in Market Street, the old art museum, that whole area. When you go, I'm gonna do a build on that. That's a dope one.
That's a fact. That's a
and
fact.
that King James the First, right? Using that English Virginia Company or something, from England, the Virginia Company, King James the First, the one that did the Bible, right? He came around 1606, before that Bible was written, with the colonization. So that goes more into them using that Bible to colonize and using the information. And there's something about these, what do you call it, the Adamites, right? It talk about a lineage of people that were before, like, earlier time over in certain areas that tried to bring this into effect. And it sounds like these are the Adamite people.
Right. You know, the first Bible to be translated from his heretic text or Aramaic text is the Algonquin Bible. Y'all can look that up. That's the first translated Bible in America, the Algonquin Bible. Go look it up.
1650s, yep. That's a fact. I was gonna say, you know why the buildings look so similar in Chicago and New York was because it's part of the same empire. Like New York, New Jersey, and that upper part of Canada, that was part of ancient Babylon, right? Now, Babylon was just a name. So when people say Babylonians, it wasn't like a nation of people. The Babylonians was a mix of Assyrians, Aramaeans, and Persians, and some Canaanites and some Cushites, right? So Chicago, that would have been Persia. Like that would have been a part of that Persia region. So Persia was a part of the Babylonians. So, all of us that was born up north, like me, I was born and raised in South Jamaica, Queens. So I'm a Babylonian native. So whenever you hear about ancient Babylon, see, that's the thing. Like what our brother A1 was touching on, like when he's like, oh yeah, well, the Sumerians, they was from here. Yeah, they were from up north in New York, New Jersey, the New England, the Canada area. And what did they say? He read that they stretched their empire all the way down to Peru. That's when you look at history, that's the Assyrian Empire. So basically everything that they switched on the east, we could pinpoint it exactly where it was here in the west.
The Assyrians is another branch that come from the Saracens. And what y'all got to understand, this is a mythological tribe. This is part of the tribe that they never talk about in the Hebrew Israelite camp. A lot of people don't talk about Jacob's tribe, which they do. They talk about Judah, Benjamin, Levi, Gad, all these particular tribes, right? The 12, and then, but it's 13 of them. Jacob had a daughter first. Jacob had a daughter first, which was where the lineage would have started from. Nobody tracks Sarah or the Sarah sons, right? Or the Assyrians, right? It's the same people. It's the same lineage. So when you're getting into Jacob's story, you're literally looking at the Yaqub story. It's a genetic alteration.
Oh, when they talk about it when in the story about the Adamites, AP or A1, we could do a build on that. It breaks it down. It even talks about how they try to act like or take over or assume the role or the genes or genetic structure of replacing the Indians in America. Like, it's so crazy. Everything they talk about, everything they do, they have to keep a record of this stuff. This the thing. This how if we not studious to the information and put it together, because with y'all being on this genre of information, I'll say that y'all being young, some AP, you young. You're a little young, baby. You was like my daughter age, but A1, you're around my age. You're a little bit younger than me, though. So you're in the age of bringing the information to the ones that was a little younger than you, like AP and them. So boom, they minds being so young, just affluent to this stuff, picking up on this, picking up on that. It's all this connecting the dots together and us information to be installed into a book, because these are the things we need to be laying out so we can have our own structured information and start putting it out. It's just no way that this information, we should just be talking about it and we don't have something set up, because y'all know too much. And I'm sorry, y'all, AP, I gotta give you credit, baby. Like I say all the time, I always got to give shout out to the young one that put me on to this information, because all I knew is, I was Indian. My grandma told me I was Indian. I wasn't from Africa. That's all I knew all my life. I never thought anything of it. I've been on my spiritual journey, and when you brought me into this, it's just like, oh my God, it's so baffling, that we have been fooled and blinded all this time. So our people got to really know this stuff, and this is why I can't stand when these people try to come against this truth and trying to demise it because they doing age and stuff. We got to really, literally put it out there. It's up to us to do it.
You're right, because then they're gonna keep telling the same story, Sister Soul. You know what I'm saying? So they're gonna keep telling the same story, like the Ham, Sham, Jeffet. Man, listen, them niggas are Florida boys. You know what I'm saying? Them of us came from the southern eastern part of the United States, man. Flat facts. So we don't want to put no fake link. Them Florida boys, straight from America, straight up. You know what I'm saying? We don't want to hear no shim jam. Them ain't no different ethnicities. Nigga created a Chinese, a European, and shit. No, nigga.
Putting shit in the bottle and just shaking it up and creating it. Like, really, literally, just almost that simple.
I mean, it could be a story like that, but it's not talking about. This is the Ham, Sham, Jeffet, Noah story is a story that happens over a course of thousands of years. That's what it's explaining. It's explaining thousands of years, y'all. It's been compressing to contemporary text to thinking it happened over a few days and shit. Populated the whole earth in 365 days. 4 niggas from Florida. No, that's explaining a story from thousands of years. You gotta wake up, man. Seriously.
Yeah, it is condensed, but it kind of has to be, because the book would be like extremely, extremely long. Nobody would be able to read it if they put it in as many years as it actually took. So they, like you said, you're right. They had to condense it down. I always say that those scriptures are like watered down versions of what actually happened. The further you go back into different ancient societies, they get more elaborate with what they're telling you was going on.
Right. Like, so when you look at the Noah story, you like, okay, this kind of seems weird. You got white people turning into black people, these different kids, these different races. Then when you get into it, you look at the epic Gilgamesh. You're like, damn, this story sounds familiar. A little more detail, a little more elaboration on it, right? Then you get into the Atlantis story. You're like, hold on, this story sounds even more familiar. You see what I'm saying? And then you start to correlate that these are the same stories told over a course of different times. One might have came in 1,000 years. One might have came in 3,000 years. One might have came in 3,500 years. And these are stories that's talking about the same event told through different lenses and perspectives as generations.
Like,
and you know
like
why it got it? Oh, I'm
story
sorry.
of-
Go ahead, brother.
I was just gonna say like the story of Zeus, Hades, and Poseidon, right? That would be Shem, Japheth, and Ham, right? And then from those three, they set up their kingdoms over the earth, and then they had children and so forth and so on, and they based their society off the society of the Titans before them. So the Titans, like A1's built yesterday, with the Lemurians or the people of Mu would have been the Titans, and then the people after them would have been the Atlanteans, and then the people after them would be, the people who built from America and went.
You're right, and they say that the Titans, right, which is the Greek mythology, learned from the Egyptians. Now let's break this down. When we deal with Egypt and America, where do you find it at? Memphis. Cairo. Now what's in Memphis? What's in Tennessee? What's the name of the Tennessee team? Football team, the Titans. So when you're looking at certain correlations, they already giving it to you. They giving it to you right there. You see what I'm saying? Right in your face.
And it's some of the largest mounds. Oh my gosh, when I came through Tennessee the first time, I'm just looking mounds, huge mounds everywhere. You can even see some of the mountains or mounds where they have rocks covering up. It looked like would have been doorways or ways into them. And it's like covered with just rocks. It was like 4 or 5 of them I've seen just from the highway. I'm looking like, why the hell do they have these rocks covering up these? It had to be entryways because they're so tall and set up.
Man, it's so much right off that Tennessee River, sister. So I'm telling you, they be lying about so much. They don't even tell you about the Red Pyramid, one of the last pyramids built in Tennessee, right? Protected by the Confederate Army. Did y'all know that? It's called the Red Pyramid in Shalom, Tennessee, right?
Yeah.
Make it up. Shiloh, Tennessee. And it's the Red Pyramid. The pyramid still exists. It was a huge battle there.
Soon as you come through, like right, soon as you start entering like that area, you start seeing the soil changing, right? When I came through there, I'm like, oh my gosh, we went through one of these towns. I still have dirt and rocks that I took. I used some of the dirt, right? My daughter she had something on her face because she was wearing that mask. I kept telling her about that mask. She had something on her face. I took some of the clay that I got from Tennessee, right? Mix it with some honey and some black seed. Literally in like 3 days, the shit was gone. I know the honey and black seed is already a healer, just for anybody that don't know, for any spots and blemishes. But anyway, but the with putting that clay in there, it literally had healing powers to it. And when I tell you how red and beautiful it was, that's why I took it. It was just I've never seen red rocks and red sand, dirt, whatever you want to call it, all over the place.
Man, listen, as kids, we used to, it look a little appetizing. You know what I mean? When you're making little patties as kids, you know what I'm talking about? We in McDonald's as kids in the backyard. You know what I'm saying? I done tasted some of that red clay before now.
I've heard people talking about that, AP. I swear, eating the red dirt. Literally. Healing properties in that.
As kids, that's what we used to play with. Man, as kids, we used to love playing with that. We get some water, some little mud, have some little burgers from McDonald's in the backyard. You understand me?
And it's funny, them Egyptian Kemetic. No, go ahead, Charles.
No, I was just gonna say, when I be like respect the L's, it's just funny that red clay match the complexion on these paintings of these Kemet paintings and stuff. Go ahead, my bad.
Say that, brother. Say that.
Yep.
Exactly.
Hey, look, let me just run down. I want to just show y'all a few things real quick. Look, check this out, right? So this is the shit they found in Cusco, right? Don't that look like the layout? Can I get it a little smaller than that? Hold up. Something is going on. Shit, the fuck? Can y'all see the screen? All right, there you go. You can see, y'all can see the screen,
Yeah,
right?
it's clear.
Yeah, we good.
Don't the layout right here? Don't this look like a block? Don't this like a
Yep.
city block today?
Mm-hmm.
Like a
Yep.
city block, right? And look, and what they found did was check this out, right? So they saying the Inca Empire contained 100,000 houses, perhaps 500,000 people at the time the Spanish arrived, right? So this is what they saying that these structures was at, like, and similar to what I just showed you, right? With Tenochtitlan land, right? With this shit right here, right? This pretty much. I'm not saying that this is the exact same layout because this is something different. But what I'm showing you right here is how an actual block, like a city, the perimeter around the city looks exactly like this today. If you look at the blueprint of a city
No, you
or of a
absolutely.
town, if
You right, A1. It do. It looks just like, matter of fact, when you get into the American Indian Encyclopedia, it states that the American Indians create what we call urban cities. When you think of urban, you think of right now. You see what I'm saying? You're thinking of right now. So they started creating these right now looking cities thousands of years ago. Facts.
and all and what they did was just build over some things. These cities, that all of these cities that have been constructed right now or whatever, have always been here. You know what I'm saying? And like even when we get into this, right? So look, this is I'm quite sure you didn't seen this before.
Real quick
I
on
know
that
AP
picture,
is.
A1. It's crazy because when you're looking at it, it's always designed to for like you were talking about the irrigation and the transport. So things everything on there, if you could see it from that one right corner at the bottom, it shows everything can get to that transport or
Hey,
to that
Sister
area
Soul,
where everything is going to. Hmm.
when you read American Indian Encyclopedia, guess what else it states? They created transportation and sanitation routes for the same cities, for these urban cities. City layout plans with urban transportation and sanitation. So you're absolutely right. This is
That's just
exactly
what
what
it's
you
showing.
said.
Yep. Look
Street
at it.
sweep.
Wow.
And I like that it says celestial cities as well.
Mm-hmm.
Celestial. Yep.
This is Machu Picchu, right? So look, or this is the area around Machu Picchu near Lake Tiahuanaca and near Tiahuanaca and Titicaca, right? So look, check this out though. I know AP seen this before. This is in Philadelphia. Now you tell me what this reminds y'all of. This is in Philadelphia. Look at this shit.
Looking like Venice.
Yep.
Nigga, that shit look like Rome, Greece, Atlantis.
Hey,
Atlantis got the same type of buildings.
Exactly.
so you think, and I hate when people come here and talk about our culture, like especially from foreigners, like as if we lazy. Listen, man, look at all this beautiful shit we built. And I want to say this: there's no such thing as a lazy person. There's only people that is not interested in doing things that they're not passionate about. That's
That's a
it.
fact.
You see what
That's
I'm
a
saying?
fact.
That's it. No such thing as lazy people. You're just not passionate about what you're doing. That's it. You feel me?
So this shit right here, man, is astonishing. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, when you really look at it, you like, and this is in Philadelphia, right? And we was talking about them brownstones, right? Let me see. So I think these is in New York, right? These are brownstones in New York. These are the brownstones in Chicago. Let me see something. I think I got a picture of the Chicago.
Don't they got those in San Francisco as well?
Hey, one, I noticed you ain't got no moderators in your chat, bro. I'm like the only moderator in your chat, bro.
Man, I've been giving out wrenches for years, man. Nobody. What we got some.
Bro, I'm telling you, for the last 5 live streams, I haven't seen a moderator in sight except for me, bro. Maybe Chief every now and then when he come in. I haven't seen him, bro.
Well, help me out, man. Get some people some wrenches if you can for me. I appreciate it.
Okay, let me see if I can do that. I think I can do that actually. Let me see.
And all of these towns look alike. This how the shit look in Jersey in certain towns. You know what I'm saying? They all look the same. You know what I'm saying? And that's in this in Chicago.
And we always had the tree. That's another thing. I'm sorry, brother. That one just reminded me of that. We always had the trees, too, A1. They try to move and get rid of our trees everywhere, but they had everything built around where we're still creating the flow of oxygen. It was a lot of trees that, and they'll talk about wilderness. That's because the trees were so bountiful and beautiful, but they still were around for the oxygen.
Yeah, you
Hey,
need
one,
trees. Yeah,
it's
go ahead.
crazy they call these buildings too, like the ones that's still up and running. They call them landmarks, and they usually be having a symbol on them too.
Yeah. And that's in all cities, bro. You go to St. Louis, you might find this. We know Chicago, Detroit, New York, Boston area. I done seen
You
fucking
see these buildings everywhere. I'm talking everywhere.
And a lot of these buildings got fallout shelters too.
yeah.
Yeah, right up under it. Yeah, they got like bunkers and shit. Like,
Bro, look,
hey,
I've
well,
been
I can't make nobody a moderator. Only you can do that from your YouTube channel. So
all
you
right.
got to go to your YouTube. I'll hold it down. You know what I'm saying? Keep it going.
Thank y'all for letting me come up. I'm about to slide. Keep doing what y'all do, man. Ancestors is on it.
Peace to the God, brother.
Peace, brother.
So we see these same buildings, and I'm quite sure if we find out what material they was made out of, we're gonna find that that material was being utilized in Americas already. A lot of them, see, we know what we know adobe, limestone, I think it's like two other ones.
Are those cobblestones? Just to clarify, that building right there, the
That
one.
look like a cobble archway, don't it? It do like
Yeah.
a cobble archway right there going to that.
And it's a lot of those in Chicago. I mean, a whole lot. It's a lot of the ones like the ones in New York, those brownstones, but it's a lot of those cobblestones in Chicago. Beautiful buildings.
Look,
That's what we got back home. We got cobblestone buildings and motherfucking roads. You understand? We got a whole road that's cobblestone. I hate driving on them.
So you
Even
got
here in Texas, what's crazy, I've seen places, buildings like that and structures like that. Like I went one time when we were traveling, like before reaching the town that I moved to, one place we stopped at, I can't remember the town, but they had the hotel. It's like I just got up one morning, I like walked around the back, and it had an archway of this. I took a picture of it too. I'm gonna look that up. It had an archway, looked just like that with the cobblestone, and you could tell it was a wall and it was something else, but it had been torn down. They had other stuff built over there, but it was the same exact. I'm like, dang, this looked like a Chicago archway. The whole thing looked the same exact way right
That's
here in
right.
Texas.
But look at this building on A1. Look at this ornamentation. If we can just zoom in on the exquisite detail, you know how much time went in just to the detail of the first layer of the building before we move to the second layer and working out. That is magnificent. Oh my goodness.
You talking about articulate mind think. You got to have an articulate mind and the best imagination to think like this. This could only be our people to even think to do something like this.
How can someone allegedly come from Europe, coming out of the Dark Ages, coming out of the Black Plague, coming out of all these vicious, horrendous things that's going on in Europe? They make their way to America. They start the industrial age. And as soon as they start building these industrial buildings, they look like this in the beginning. This is your first shit, and everything afterwards looks shitty. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Don't make sense. From
and this is in Chicago. I mean, no, I'm sorry, this is Philadelphia. Look, and it got the same look. If you look at the structure of it, right, and look at the brownstone structure, right? Look,
I ride by this building all the time. It's downtown Philadelphia. It's a church. I actually just videotaped it the other day on IG.
I'm gonna go back. Hold up. I'm gonna go back to it. Hold up. You see, this is in Chicago. You see them same archways. Look, you see the same archways, and look, you see the same archways. We go back. Let me see. What was it?
And that's because what everybody passed down. I don't care how many centuries down, even if it's 200 years later, they're gonna be doing that because everything was passed down through the family. And so whatever they knew, they're gonna be showing their children. So everybody gonna be doing the same thing. Everybody know how to do the same exact thing.
Mm-hmm. We actually then de-evolved in some cases. You know what I'm saying? And we didn't been de-evolved, but we can get back to the point where we was doing all this. You know what I'm saying? It just come from focusing, manifesting. So let me see this real quick. I want to see the museum. So this is the museum. Let's see what this shit look like. Oh, it's right there. Hold up. Let me see. They got a picture of it. Nah, hold up. Let me go back.
When you get a chance, A1, can you pull up the Museum of Science and Industry and look at it?
You said the Museum of Science and Industry.
Yeah, in Chicago.
All right, hold up. I got you. That's this. I mean, that's the same building we just was talking about, right?
Well, that's the one from the World's Fair, and that's the one that they actually designated to keep. Remember, they said they was gonna keep 1 or 2 buildings for historical reasons, because they was all supposed to be temporary, but the 2 that they randomly kept turned out not to be temporary, which is weird, right? They all concrete shit.
Right.
This is weird. It gets weird when you start getting into it. You know what I'm saying? And that same building that A1 was showing you, they said they built 200 of those in 12 months. Impossible, according to any engineer or any architectural engineer.
No, it's impossible. See, these people think we stupid. You know what I'm saying? You talking about this one right here? Sister Soul?
It look, obviously it look a little different, but that part right there in the middle, that big old dome part, that's the like one of the main parts where the main entrance is of the museum.
It was, and matter of fact, right there by that dome port on the other side of that ferry, it was an electric sidewalk that was called a travelator. Did y'all know that? It was called a travelator. You didn't have to walk; it would just take you to the other side of the goddamn sidewalk. You see what I'm saying?
Right, just sliding around, like basically
Electric. It was electric. It was electric. It was all
like an escalator. Look just like an escalator.
Just like an escalator, except it goes east to west instead of up in elevation. That's the only difference.
So beautiful. Look at that. And they tore a lot of it down.
Listen, mind you, all this was temporary. They said this shit was made of wood and plaster and bullshit. They just lied to us, man. They lied.
Look at that shit right there. Now that's consistent with the same architecture that we see throughout, with the same Greco-Roman type of front. You even see houses built like this with the same, like this same structure right there with the maybe 3 pillars, right? So this is ancient architect right here. This ain't nothing, man. It would take these people hundreds of years to build this shit, bro.
Listen, you couldn't even build one of those buildings in a year, let alone 12, 200. Impossible, bro. I'm telling you, impossible. We gotta use our mind here. This is when a remote thinker or whole brain thinker comes into place. A lot of you Pan Africans do not use your brain. You feel me? I want you to use it sometimes. It's not just for a hat rack. You don't just put hats on that motherfucker. You understand?
It's nothing there, AP. It's nothing there, brother. It's nothing there, man. We fighting a losing battle with some of these niggas. Is just lost cause. Look, niggas lost cause, man. You a lost. You a waste of a good brain and shit, man. Because you don't know how to process the information that you even comprehend or you think you comprehend.
And this when they had that free electricity because they had everything coming through the buildings, and then they would be getting charged, with those poles. They had the 24 karat gold poles that they had up top. This is where they would also charge the airships. They had airships that looked like hot air balloons, and they used to travel in those before they had these airplanes.
Zeppelins. The Zeppelins. And the Zeppelin was created by a Negro.
Everything come from us that was from
I'm talking about they actually give credit to Zeppelins being created by us. They give us credit for Zeppelins. They even give us credit for helicopters. We created helicopters. What the fuck have any of these other people created? We created the motorcycle. Go look at the brother Hardy, which they stole his idea and created Harley motorcycles, right? Go and look at C.R. Patterson. Go and look at all of the other technology we see, the stove, the refrigerator, the toilet bowl, the sewer system, everything that people use today. They like you wouldn't have technicians doing computers and doing all that if they didn't have the proper nourishment or the food, fire, water, and shelter to sustain them or to preserve their existence on this plane. You understand what I'm saying? All that come from, I could raise my hand with that. Well, I put my hand when they be like, do anybody know what a slave is? I'll be like, yeah, I know what a slave is, but it ain't my people. But I can raise my hand when it comes to the science and the technology. Because we know now. We know now. You know what I'm saying? But black people ain't ever do this. You sure about that? All right, so show me the main inventions that it takes for a person to preserve one's life. Please show me. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, and like I said, this shit goes on and on and on with this information, man. It's just too much shit. You know, you got the experts saying it. You know, other people will come in here and say, and even a lot of them so-called Negro colleges was built by us. A lot of the Negro colleges that was here was already here. They just took them over. I just showed in what town was that? Lake Lanier, that one of the so-called Negroes, which they created that story. That's not his original story. That's a story that they constructed to make him look, oh, he was a slave. He bought himself out of freedom. Then a year later, he had an empire. Then he was building schools. They lying. They lying. They lying. You know what I'm saying? They lying. You can't believe these people with their history, man. And just because, I heard the frivolous argument yesterday, just because the schools are called black don't mean that they was made by Africans. They're calling them black now. They wasn't even called Negroes. They was called Negro schools at first. You know what I'm saying? They wasn't called.
Yes, Negro schools, brother. My daughter's grandmother has her on her diploma. It says it, Negro school.
Yup, Negro school. They weren't called black. But these stupid niggas, oh, this is what black nigga. Everything you see what so-called black people doing today is aborigines, but they have amnesia. They can't remember who they are because they didn't wipe their minds clean and then put another program in it, which is the general education system. And people are acting this shit out today. And then they trying to program us again. We already deprogrammed ourselves or washed our brain. These niggas is still brainwashed and programmed. And then they come back in trying to argue the same shit we trying to get away from, or the same shit we've been battling all these years. So when a person come in, you already know their style of fighting. If I didn't have many battles with you, I already know your style of
And we are not Africans. We are not African. Are you?
There you go right there. You know what I'm saying? But we already know these niggas.
My bad. I didn't mean to do that. My bad.
Nah, it's all good. It's all good, AP. We already know their approach to how they do shit, right, AP? We know their arguments. We know what they're gonna come with. You know what I'm saying? And like I said in the beginning of the bill, right? Understand this, right? Even some of these articles, okay? You see me read or attempt to read from a lot of these articles and books. You think I believe everything in that goddamn article in that book? No, absolutely not. But these niggas that go back to an article and say, you forgot to mention, nigga, I wasn't.
That's when you got a critical think, A1. I don't think they involve critical thinking in their research and methodology. They deal with whatever methodology they was laid down for them to follow or pathway.
AAP, look, they allow, this is what they do, right? So they allow the author of the so-called book and the author sources to create this fallacy in their mind, and they don't even fact check that. That's not investigative research, because a real researcher going to research the sources that they got and see whether or not they verify, or is this stuff can it be proven that at least there is another explanation other than the explanation you got. They don't teach us about none of this shit. And it's like you can go to their universities and not learn none of this stuff.
Well, that's because their dissonance is so off, right? Like you said, they already got it in their mind that they right. That's the first problem. Instead of being open to like, oh, let me make sure that I'm right. They automatically know that they're right. This so they have that in their mind already. They are their biggest barrier or their biggest block. So they have it in their mind that they know this. Then when they hear information and you read it, because they know something in their mind to be the opposite of what the fact is, their dissonance is going to gravitate toward that. So when you reading stuff, the brother was up there on Ab TV thing yesterday. He arguing about, oh, it said that you're not reading it right. We reading this. We have a pure understanding of it. You're the one that does not understand because your dissonance is so focused on what you believe to be true, what you're hearing, even though we're reading it and making sense of it, your mind cannot connect to the truth because it's so off. It's a whole nother frequency. I keep telling these, but they on a different frequency of information. So they cannot gravitate or grab hold to stuff even when it's right there in their face. And then they have a block up because they so honoring their belief that they don't want to believe nothing you're saying or they want to prove you wrong so bad. Like the one guy that always want to, oh look, everyone said this. He playing your videos. I'm like, why would you care about all that? Go on what you talking about. Because they're so focused on trying to oppose the truth because they think that they're right. They won't never see it. That's what's real crazy. They more than brainwashed. They sticking
Right
themselves
now,
in a
now
hole.
understand that these Europeans don't really go to these fucking colleges to get information. They get their exclusive information through seminars. So the shit that they would get their information, the shit that we talking about, they're not gonna put it in the school. They're gonna do it in a seminar. You're gonna have to pay $2,500 to enter in. You see what I'm saying? That's how they do this. They'll take this information to make lucrative economic income off of this shit. Facts.
Yep.
And they don't understand that. They don't understand. Like, you hear me cut people off because I already heard people, they think we don't know conventional history. See, that's the thing. They think we don't know conventional history. We know conventional history. That's why we at the point right now, because we found other things that didn't agree with what conventional history says. That's the whole purpose to why we having this argument now, because we know conventional history. But then when they deviate, when you find a deviance from conventional history, is when you're supposed to be speculative. You're supposed to start speculating, or you're supposed to start thinking critical about the information that you're processing, because you don't recollect with it because it was never told to you. You see what I'm saying? So you run across something else just as a researcher, and you like, wait a minute, huh? So these cities is older than the cities over there, that these niggas keep jumping up, raising their hand, and yeah, we were Egyptians. Egypt. They yelling Egypt. And then they yelling, they ain't talking about no other place in Africa. They only talking about Egypt. They ain't even claiming North Africa. They're not even claiming that.
Right, you know and then we do when we do question them and focus and make them show us shit in other places besides Egypt and like West Africa, it's a rubbish wall, or it's a tallywhacker stick, or it's a baboon fur with a couple lines in it as a calculator. You see what I'm saying? No, we're not taking that nonsense when we got real mathematics like calendars. You know what a freaking calendar is? You know the actual mathematical components and systems you have to come up with accurately to come up with a calendar. We're not talking about no fucking baboon tallywhacker stick.
Well, and that's the whole thing. You know what I'm saying? Your man, not a coincidence. He shows us some pseudo shit of a sundial, but we got actual intact fucking calendars here, nigga. That's older than the shit you saying, right? But they just not trying to put the accurate date on it because they're trying to hide the fact that this shit even exists in the beginning. Not less for you to be able to understand how old it may be. You know what I'm saying?
Listen, the whole world was shook. The whole world was shook in 2011 based off of a calendar that our ancestors put out. The whole world was shook. Oh, 2012 coming. Oh shit. You know that came from the Mayans, bro.
Well, you're not a Mayan,
the whole world was shook, y'all. Like on some shit that we calculated. They didn't know how to calculate it because they don't understand math for real. You
And
see
see,
what I'm
look,
saying?
we could connect the Mayan and Olmec culture to the southeast civilization.
The
We could connect
Algonquin
that.
is the Olmec. The Powhatan is the Olmec. The Narragansett is the Olmec. The same people, bro. It's the same culture. All the way out to California to the Pico Indians.
Can these niggas connect any? These
Get out
niggas
of
can't
that.
connect any of the.
Shout out to Big Bro.
These niggas can't connect any Egyptian artifacts, Egyptian culture to nothing in North Africa. Nothing. They can't connect none of that shit. But we could connect ourselves to the actual Mayans, nigga, the gods, the motherfuckers who responsible for the people that, like David Children Hatcher just was talking about, that he's astonished about even reading it. He's shocked. He's like, oh, how can they do this? What kind of technology they had to cut stone? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, at the end of the day, man, a lot of people, man, they do themselves disjustice by challenging the information instead of just being upright in the front and just saying, yo, I never heard this before. This is something that is miraculous among my studies, right? Among my studies or what I've heard, and I'm gonna do my due diligence to go check it out. Now they argue with you right there on the spot, but this says African, this says black. Was American Aborigines classified as blacks and Africans? Okay, well that would make sense to why that's going on, right?
Well, science says the first people to walk this planet were Negro people, were so-called black people. That's what science says. Well, contemporary literature, right, got a definition behind the word Aboriginal. You know what it means? First. So we're saying that we first, by force fit, science already said what they look like. I don't have to announce it. It's already embedded. We don't have to argue what did the first people or Aboriginal people look like, which means first people. We don't have to argue. Science says all first people that walked this were Negro. So it's not even up for debate, okay?
You going live, AP?
Yeah, I am. I'm going live at 12:50. So you got about an hour.
Nah, I'm about to we're gonna rock out for about 10 more minutes. I gotta go down here and go put some of the shit in my truck.
Okay.
I got a few things to run around and do. But yeah, for the most part, shit, we've been rocking out for how long? What we doing?
3 hours and 20 minutes, man.
So you already know what it is. Always a heavyweight jam on deck. You know what I'm saying? But definitely, like with the science and technology, you have to pay attention, man. You have to, if you're a historian and you read all of these books and you know about the Mesopotamia and all this, and you could say this shit like, yeah, it sounds good to somebody who don't know better. You can definitely win somebody over with that conversation that don't know no better. But when you come over here, that shit gonna be constantly challenged. It's gonna be challenged. It's gonna be, we gonna start. I'll be laughing at motherfuckers, man. Like, look, man, we fuck with D-Red, but D-Red, man, that shit, man, that nigga's brainwashed, man. You know what I'm saying? And no disrespect to the brother. I understand he put a lot of time in to learn the stuff that he says, man. But at the end of the day, you ain't do no critical thinking. You ain't decipher. You ain't decode. You just let the Europeans do the research. You let the authors do the research, and you just agreed with them, and you didn't even see whether or not their methodology was even factual or absolute. It's not absolute if you got other archaeologists and other anthropologists and other authors writing opposite to what they're writing. So it can't be absolute. So that's what I'm saying. Like, what you saying to me, is this absolute? So you're saying that this, there's no possibility that what you're saying you could be wrong about. You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm saying, I could be totally wrong about everything I showed, every fucking thing I showed. But guess what? I could be totally right too. Or we can meet ourselves I can say in between, maybe 2/3 of the way. Maybe this shit could be like 70% true. I don't know in its entirety, because I only can go off of the individuals who actually did the field work and did the research and coming up with what they're saying. But when they telling you some freaking pyramids in Cuba is 6,000 years, that's older than Mesopotamia. That's older than Mesopotamia. Oh, the shit they found in Ecuador. Well, who the people they said was around Bolivia, Ecuador? Oh shit. Carlos Chavez Marquez said that these is Negroes. He said the Negro is figuratively captured in most of the ancient artifacts that they find in all of them places. So who was the people doing this? Or they pass right over us and give credit to some motherfucking mestizo. Or if they don't get a credit to the mestizo, what they do is, right, they'll give credit to an alien, nigga. Before you say anything, nigga, they'll give credit to an alien. They won't even give your people no credit. We got another brother on here, man. We're about to get out of here in a couple minutes. What's up, brother? What you got for us?
What's up? What's up? What's up? How are you guys?
Peace to God.
Peace.
Peace.
Awesome. Peace indeed. So I've been listening to Atanchanos One and Abbo for a long time now. And you guys are on point, man. Like, you go a lot deeper than even the so-called Pan-Africanists. Now, I have no hatred toward them. What I do hate, though, that they do is immediately shut you down when you come up with something, instead of saying, wow, I've never, like you said earlier, wow, I've never heard of this before. Let me look into it. They just automatically say pseudo, and that shuts everybody down. You know what I mean? So
that pseudo is like the conspiracy theory world.
Right. It's like automatically, it's like, holy smokes, like, can you at least listen to what he's saying? So I've learned that I was, a Hebrew and stuff like that, but I never left it like that, because the one thing that made me think that I was a Hebrew was the slave ships. And so I kept looking into it, and I'm like, wait a minute. They're pushing slave voyages. And I was like, wait a minute. If they're pushing slave voyages, they're pushing globe Earth, they're pushing a bunch of things, right? If they're pushing it, you got to question it, because they're pushing it. They're pushing the Bible. I remember when they gave us the green Bibles, the little Bible. Like, why would they give you these things for free? So these are just normal things we have to do as a people, right? And I did. So then I start searching. I found Aboriginal, and then I found Atanchanos One. So I listened to you guys. But not only do you speak, you have a lot of like firsthand accounts from when the Portuguese came here. You know what I'm saying? When the first people came here, colonial records is what you call it?
Yeah, colonial records. Yeah, we try to get into the earliest documented records.
Right, exactly. So a brother went on Garfield, and this is no shade against Garfield. I just want to have us have a different mentality here. But he went on Garfield, and the brother brought up some sources, and Garfield said, where'd you get this source? And is it a primary source? He's like, yeah, it's a colonial record. And he's like, how old is it? Without even looking into it, he asked, how old is it? So the guy gives him a date, and he's like, well, has it been updated since then? And we're like, wait a minute. You haven't looked at it, but you want an updated source. Because what he wants to prove is his point, is that it needs to be updated. And if it's updated, chances are the original account is not true. But he's not doing his due diligence by looking at the original account. So that tells me a lot of these brothers are not, I don't want to put a claim on them, but they do come off as if they're for the system. You know what I mean? So we shouldn't necessarily fight with them, because Atanchanos, the other day you were on Garfield and you did it right. You did it right. He said, be quiet. You were quiet. Then you said, can I speak? You spoke. You gave some awesome points and some documentation. They couldn't refute it, so they fought you. And they put you in the back again. I'm like, what the?
You see, you see, hey, but look, that the only time they silence you when you telling the truth, or you telling some shit that's right to debunk what they say.
Need to come outside. Jabari, and Garfield need to come outside and come see us. The first tag team debate, big Aboriginal power and Atanchanos One. Garfield and come outside, man. Science of Americas versus Science of Africa, man. Let's go.
Yeah, and so if you look at like a lot of history, right, in the world, you never see where a group of people enter a new land, wherever that is, whether they whether they conquer it or not, they move into a new place. And how long has the United States existed as a nation? Dude, it hasn't even been that long. Yet you see so much progress, and you're like, hell no. There's no way. One of you said it earlier. It's like that makes no sense anywhere else. Why does it make sense here? And one thing another person said, I don't remember who said it on the panel, is that I think it was the sister. She said, okay, people, if they do certain things a certain way for a very long time, they're gonna keep doing it over and over again for generations. They might improve on it, but you're not gonna digress in how you make things. Now, for example, a lot of this stuff, I know, Atancius, when you had mentioned like the post office square in New York, how it's ancient, it looks ancient, but they said it was founded during a certain time. They didn't actually say when it was built or anything like that. But the point is, if you look at the old architecture, right, of the Americas, okay, and then you compare it to what they build now, it's very different. And a lot of it is mimicked. You know what I mean? A lot of the houses here are wood. If we had a war right now, I've been watching the war in Ukraine, and a lot of these buildings are still standing, dude, because a lot of them are made out of brick. You know what I mean? But
like you said, brother, you going in. I gotta say, you really going in on this critical thinking, because when you look at America only being a country for, let's just say, rounded off to 300 years, there's no way for them to make the advancements and the contributions that quick. System, it had to be something already in place that they emerge and interjoin with, and so that's what we're ultimately looking at is a mass blending and cover up.
Exactly. And another thing is, here's what's interesting: they're trying to give the advances of the Americas to the so-called Native Americans, right? Okay, fine. Okay, let's say you want to give it to them. Why are they still like, they're on your side? They don't fight you. You're not their enemy. Number two, nothing they're building today resembles what was built back then. Like, nothing. Now, the only thing I know that a lot of them still have, and I've been looking into it, is the language. Because a language is something easy to attain. When you move to a new land, you learn the language, etc. The people even probably want to teach you the language. So it's easy to keep that because you want to communicate. But what I notice is, okay, let me jump ahead and then I'll stop. Here's the thing, right? If I'm from Dominica, the Caribbean, I know you guys don't agree with this, but if you consider Canada, America, the United States of America, and South America, the Americas, the Caribbean islands is part of the Americas. I know you guys don't agree with that, but I agree with that. So
Hold on. Wait. Hold on. Bro, when I come out, I say peace to the gods, peace to the goddesses, peace to the Aborigine, North, South, Central, and the conjoining islands.
Yeah, because we're in the same region.
He most likely talking to me because I do have a different understanding and perspective when it comes to the islands. Not saying that they're
you
not.
kind of low, AP. I don't know if it's me.
Yeah, I don't know if it's me. Let me see. Let me see if I can turn my mic up. Let me see. Can you hear me now? Are we good? Are we good? All right. So yeah, like I said,
you good.
I do understand what you're saying. Exactly. So I do consider the people of the islands, the Pacific Islands, the conjoining islands, all being indigenous to the Western Hemisphere, having our own culture, folkways, mores, contributions that we have added into the world. And I just like those particular moments. But when it comes to us being indigenous to the Western Hemisphere, we are the same people, and we share a lot of common culture as well. So
right. And so what I wanted to end with was, if you try to deport me, where are you going to deport me? To the Caribbean. You're not going to deport me to Africa. And if you wanted to deport AP, where would you deport him to? Where? Nowhere. Like here. So there's
we call it an extradite. When you're from here and you gotta go somewhere else that's from her, that's called an extradite.
That's crazy, dude. So it's interesting. The so-called African Americans are the only ones that cannot be deported anywhere, and even literally. And so I met this girl the other day, and she's European. And I looked at her, I'm like, wow, you look like you're directly from Europe. You know, like some when Europeans come here, they mix and then they lose their phenotype a little bit for like being like directly from Europe. She had her exact phenotype. And I asked her, she says she's from Italy and her whole family's from Italy. So I'm like, that's interesting. She does not look American, like a Marroquin. She looks over there. You know what I'm saying? So what I wanted to say was, you know, there was this lady, it's an ambassador for Africa, and she was trying to garner the support of she calls it, a lot of people call it the diaspora Americans, the black, so-called black people, right? And she was like, you should come back to Africa. And I was like, you know, at the time I didn't hear about you guys. So I'm like, wow, she's on it. She's on it. Wow, she's on it. And then one day somebody asked her, so since the so-called African Americans were brought here as slaves, and you're telling us to repatriate back to Africa, is there any land for us that you guys have? She's like, what do you mean? No, they have to pay for it. I was like, wow, okay. So I guess we don't belong there, because if an injustice was done, shouldn't you be pushing for us to have our, you know what I'm saying? Like, so clearly we don't belong over there. They might want us over there, but not how you think. They want us to pay for it.
That's called being non-descendable. You know what I'm saying? And it is most commonly happened to the continent of Africa and to Africans or African Americans. People that get that title or misclassification added on to them, not being a descendant of African at all. You see what I'm saying? And that's right. That's clear. Indigenous culture and nationality.
Dude, that is clear. Not a single.
Quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, real quick, fellas. You can hear me real quick before I get out of here. Look, I just want to just show you something real quick before we get out of here, right? This the post office in this right across the street from Mass Square Garden, right? Post office, same shit we see. This is the image of the shit we see in Philadelphia, right? But then they also got an interesting article right here, right? Hold up, it's right here. No, my bad. Let me go back out. All right, and it's listed. It say, why do so many public buildings in the U.S. look like Greek temples, right? And then when you go down, boom, so they got a couple of different buildings that they got, but they're not showing you the grand structure. They're showing you the more smaller ones that, like a lot of these banks and some of these other I don't know what the fuck was going on, the lodges or whatever the fuck you want to call them, right? So they got a couple other ones. Let me see. Clicking. All right, they got another one. And even when you go to a lot of these Ivy League schools, they got the same buildings. When you go to a lot of colleges, a lot of the old colleges, they got the same buildings. Now, this is nothing new to what we already seen. We already seen evidence and structures like this, right? But then it tells you, let me see, oh, they got another one. This building look out of place. It looked like no matter what you put around this building, it still looks out of place for some reason, right? Another little building, they got another one, right? So you go down here, right? They said President Andrew Jackson took a keen interest in the construction of the Federal Mint building in Philadelphia. That was the first one I showed you. That was this one. This supposed to be the Mint building right here, right? So they said President Andrew Jackson took an interest in the construction. So President Andrew Jackson knew how to build Greco-Roman structures. And might I say, remember, President Jackson was a Negro. Okay. Besides the last name, you know, is evidence, and there's a lot of evidence saying all of the so-called presidents, all the way up to Lincoln, was all Negroes, right? But it say Jackson's embrace the grand architectural style known as the Greek Revival was as strange as it seems. In an emerging American republic, who earlier citizens had to define the nation character from scratch. It's saying this stately building styles borrowed from the ancient because a perfect mode of expression. Okay, so it's saying by the 1830s, most public buildings in the United States were being designed as Greek temples. They're lying. They're lying. This building right here that I just showed you is old. This building is old, my dude. This is not no new shit that they just built. Yeah, they might have did some renovations to it, but when you go and see how huge this fucking building is, and you look at it, you like, nah.
And you notice A1 that all the old structures like that it usually be like in the downtown area, and they always make it some type of county building, like the clerk's office or the judicial office or something. They always make it a county building because I believe they do that so people won't go and see what all is inside, like in the basements and things of that nature. That's just a thought.
Yeah, they took control of it, and by making it part of their jurisdiction, by saying that they built it, you never even think that your people had the capability of even pulling anything off, anything like this. Even like I said, even like we said earlier, you just thought you was an Indian, that was it. So, and it's like, nothing wrong with our humble beginnings from when we first started. We identified we was an Indian. We did observation to how the Indians live, and then some of us got stuck there and some of us evolved because we didn't just stop there. We continue to do research and do historical research so that we can run across brothers who do talk about this type of information and do give us the understanding that our people had the capability, we had the will, and we had the technology to pull this off. So with that being said, man, I gotta get up out of here, y'all. Shit, my man just fucking text me. I gotta run over
Hey,
there.
take care, A1.
Yeah,
Take it easy.
No doubt. Peace to God, man. Thank you for coming through. Peace to Sister Soul. Peace to my brother AP. Peace to Amaruki Nations for coming through. Peace to my brother Abdullah for coming through, dropping the information. Peace to everybody in the chat room. Peace to the American Aborigines, the gods, the goddesses. With that being said, man, I'm out of here, man.
Shout out to everybody. Hey, the link to BAP News is in the chat. Shout out to A1 for putting that in there for us. Shout out to A1. Make sure y'all run over there. We're about to go live right now. See y'all on the other side. Peace.
Appreciate everybody. Peace to the gods and the goddesses. Peace.